People grow at wildly different speeds, because that's just how life works, and some people skyrocket to insane strength, climb the ranks in a flash, and end up soaking up all that sweet praise right from the king himself. But while everyone else drags their feet, they get laughed at for being useless the second they can't keep pace. Truth is, it doesn't work that way at all because some people move slow, but they've got wild, hidden talent locked inside just begging to explode. Sometimes that power just sits there, silent and locked away, waiting for the right moment to wake up. They needed just a little push to actually show up, and the people who guide them to their full potential. That's the job of trainers, and this guy is. He's standing with his team beside a colossal fallen monster, and a girl blurts out that they finally slammed into max level. The big knight is losing his mind because he still can't wrap his head around how real this is. Real, while the glasses-wearing girl is still frozen in shock. The blonde girl snaps her eyes to her. She pauses and admits with a shaky breath that she's honestly getting pretty emotional over how far they've already come. The red-haired girl bursts into laughter, bragging about how far they've come, and claiming they just might be the fastest humans alive. Because no human on Earth has ever reached this level of power. And she's still making a huge fuss about their achievement, right as Arrows cuts in from the side to congratulate the entire group. Arrows is totally blushing because he's brimming with pride. He tells the team he never thought they'd reach this level so fast, and he can't stop praising how amazing they are. He keeps yelling cheers like a maniac, but while he's riding pure hype, the rest of the party just stands there, dead-eyed and done with it. The red-haired girl shoots him a smug grin and basically tells him, "Yeah, you're right," and he fires back a congratulations, just smiling like an idiot, totally oblivious to the fact that the whole vibe snaps. She tells him they're wiped out, barks that he should haul every bag to the inn like always, and then he drops his gear on him too. No complaints from Arrows at all. He just says, "Got it," and casually points out that he's already hauling the supplies for the other two girls. Arrows finally gets settled in the city, and the vibe turns icy the second someone leans in and tells him he doesn't need to stick around. He's got no way back now, he's been kicked out for good, and Arrows just freezes there, utterly stunned. Like his brain just flat out can't keep up with what's happening. And just like that, he finally snaps out of it, whirls around, and demands to know what the heck they mean by telling him he has to leave. The party leader demands, "Arrows, do you get it yet?" And Arrows roars back, "No way, I could never understand a word you're saying." They finally cross into level 50 today, the unbeatable cap every adventurer dreams of reaching. She tells him point blank that they don't need a trainer anymore, especially if all he's doing is helping. He helps everyone level up, then leans in and asks, "So do you finally get it? Are you ready to understand leaving?" Frozen in total disbelief, he started sweating as the truth finally hit and sank deep. Panic hits him hard. He starts stammering that sure, they might not need his training skills, but he's got his support magic, and he'll back them up no matter what. But she snaps him mid-sentence, spelling it out like a warning. They're already maxed out, so they don't need any more help. The leader snaps, asking if Eros truly thought they'd still need his support magic by now. Then Eros whips around and looks at him, eyes sharp. Staying with the rest of the group, still holding on, hoping. He tries to get some backup, but the knight just mocks him, and the girls turn their heads like his struggle doesn't matter at all. The leader blurts out, "I'm sorry," then slams him with the truth. Everyone else in the party. He finally signed off on her call to cut him loose. She leans in close, smug grin blazing, checking if it's finally clear that not a single soul in this room has any use for. Dahlia locks eyes with him and asks straight up if he really thinks his training stuff. This is the moment everything they've built is about to collide with the Demon Lord's army for real. She fires off a blunt truth, telling him they don't need him or his job anymore, while Arrows. Morrow stands there stone still, his mind racing over the vocation he's trusted ever since the day he was born, because vocations are basically special powers the god gave to. The moment they step into this world, everyone gets hit with the truth. Once someone lands that, they unlock magic and abilities made for their exact role, and as Eros recalls it, everything clicks into place. He remembers his role perfectly. He's a nurturer, a rare kind of helper who helps people grow even if he can't fight for real. And that's when you realize she's a total outlier among them, surrounded by legends like Dahlia the Sword Saint, Costoma the Holy Knight, and Glycine the Sage. And Iris the Saint doesn't just add name, she proves a crazy truth. Every single person in that party except him has an elite calling built for serious, high-level battle. Dahlia was the real standout, an absolute prodigy who smashed every record by becoming a first-class adventurer at the youngest age anyone had ever seen, and she even earned the title of hero for everything she's done. That's why everyone knows it, because it all comes down to this. And he finally recognized their crew, the hero's party. Arrow stood frozen, staring down as the realization hit them hard, like they're next. They really are a flawless crew now, and it hits him hard that maybe they don't even need his support magic anymore, but he's not ready to quit. He snaps, calling out to Dahlia, asking if they didn't vow to take down the demon lord side by side, yet she answers with a freezing stare, saying she doesn't remember. I don't remember a single thing about any of it. Desperate to survive, he insists he can protect himself. He just keeps pushing arrows out of the way and refuses to stop. For the team, he even steps up and offers to handle every chore and anything else that needs doing. He practically begged them to give him any chance at all. Just let him stay, no matter the terms. That's when Kostoma steps in right on time. He pointed at Eros and accused him of only wanting to coast, grab the rewards, and let the rest of them do all the work. The big knight cuts in and says, "Your part's done, now you're just coming along for the ride." Then he claims that once they finally beat the Arrows, about to swagger right into the Demon Lord's army like he owns the place, snatch all the credit for himself, and honestly, he can't even process what he's hearing. But Kostoma slams him with even harsher words, calling him a despicable guy, and Eros is instantly rattled, terrified he's been seen this way by his friends the whole time. Yeah, it's true, the other four are the ones really carrying the fight, doing the heavy lifting. When he stares at their silhouettes, he feels it in his bones. He's helped make this party happen just as much as anyone here. Arrow stands there, bristling with power as the world seems to circle around him. Hiding in the shadows cast by his party, he stared in awe. How did they get this strong so fast? And it all rockets right back. And that's the real reason he's a trainer. This specific power made it all possible because his biggest strength isn't battling at all, it's his support skills. Then there's that one move, the one that flips everything. A level 10 support skill that straight up bends the rules. Anyone nearby gets hit with 5 times the normal divine essence. And it's just the start of what it can do, because that's the exact fuel people need to level up. The gods would level up their jobs, because every time someone took down a magic beast, they'd get that upgrade. As long as that crew keeps on fighting, the battle is still in motion. Fighting in the chaos of arrows, those things are growing 5 times faster than any normal adventure ever could because of this. Dahlia and the whole crew, they push straight to their absolute max level in just 3 years. And now they look like they're about to explode. A truly top-tier team that hits like a wrecking ball. But Eros refuses to believe he's the only one who earned that win, because in his eyes this wasn't just about his special skills, and it all comes from way more than that, since it truly felt like they were comrades who won their success together, traveling and camping side by side. Yet even then, Dahlia just sits there, ice-cold and done with everything, like she's over it in the blink of an eye. Yeah, like none of that backstory even matters. Kostoma just stands there, grinning like he's hiding a secret, because the truth is. Then it hit him, those arrows weren't for anyone else. He was the only one who truly had it figured out. They actually valued the bond, while Iris and Glissing acted like they didn't care at all. Arrows finally cracks and says he'll just leave, then Kostoma bursts into laughter, gloating that the guy's finally doing something smart for once. Dahlia grins, leans in close and taunts him, "So you're really not gonna come crawling back to her, crying for another shot." But Eros tells her point blank he won't do it, even though inside, his heart is ripping itself in two. He falls silent, replaying the real reason he begged to stay at this party. And it all traces right back to the Demon Lord's army, because their forces are huge, led off by the Dragon Kings, with the Dragon King himself sitting at the front. You're trapped in a nightmare with 5 legendary monsters at the helm. Forest King and Spirit King each command their own savage packs. And then boom, you've got the Rock King and Sea King armies, rounding out the entire roster in one final thunderclap. A terrifying lineup of world-ending threats. Bringing down these 5 monstrous armies is the one goal every single adventurer is bleeding toward. Arrow just stands there, locked in his head, chasing the one true goal that's been fueling him this whole time, and now he's done waiting. He's going to take down the Dragon King, Doran, because the only thing driving him is the fury of seeing his parents murdered and wanting to wipe out that entire army. But now it hits him hard. He actually believed he could pull this off with this party. Dahlia snaps him out of it and orders him to dump every piece of gear and item right there, no exceptions. Kostoma backs her up hard, declaring that everything he's got is officially theirs now. Eros just freezes there, staring like he can't believe how brutally cold they are. He starts shrugging off his gear and says he'll just leave it, but then he points out one thing. Since he served as their trainer, he at least figured they'd owe him some kind of reward, and that's when. It's right when he turns to walk away, then he freezes, pauses for a beat and drops, "I'll give you one last piece of advice," leaving Kostoma completely baffled. So Eros snaps at them, warning they're probably about to march straight into the Demon Lord's territory next, but they need to stall because he bluntly tells them, "Sure, you're strong, but your power shot up way too fast and you still haven't built the combat experience you need." Dahlia bursts into uncontrollable laughter, taunting the great trainer and mocking him like, "So you really think you know everything about how much we've grown?" Dahlia shuts him down on the spot, telling him she doesn't need his worrying because they've already decided to invade the Forest King's territory. She even needles him, saying that if that's his big farewell, then he should have cooked up something way better. The door slams shut as the arrows march away, his laughter fading in the air, and, hanging out there in the hallway by himself, he finally cracks, letting out this huge, exhausted sigh as he tries to make sense of everything that just went down. And then he starts wondering if maybe he was just meddling because Dahlia's crew is no joke, until it hits him that the one he's truly scared for is. He's totally losing it for real, gripping his head and screaming about how damn awful this whole situation is. Once the rage drains away, he finally realizes this isn't even the first time he's been kicked out of a party. And yeah, it's happened a bunch of times right after he helped his teammates level up. Back then, everyone looked at him like he was nothing. Like he was basically useless since the only thing he could offer was loud cheering, and it all snowballed into his. His old teammates kept grilling him, asking if he was just hanging around to take up space. Getting booted out over and over crushed arrows to his core, so he slammed his head into training, then hit the books hard and trained like a maniac until he could finally be dangerous in a fight. Right then, Dahlia burst in, spotted him and grilled him. "Were you really that legendary cultivator with a job so rare it practically didn't exist?" She leaned in, shot him a direct question and straight up demanded he join her party, then lend them his power. She agreed to help him crush the Dragon King's army, the very same monsters who tore his life apart. At first, Kostoma was losing his mind as his level rocketed upward, while Dahlia just smiled like she'd known he was incredible from the start. She wouldn't shut up about how flawless her scouting was while the party's levels rocketed to wild heights. Yet now, Eros finally catches the real truth. He flashes back to her icy voice saying they don't need dead weight, and everything clicks at once, like maybe he got way too cocky after all since his support skills were so damn good. Realizing that while he was out there helping everyone, he wasn't even training himself to get stronger. That thought slams into him. If Dahlia and the rest of the crew can spot his weakness so clearly, then yeah, that's why they threw him out. Eros clenches his fist so tight it's almost trembling, desperate to level up until he can finally be useful to everyone around him. So he decides on the spot to bolt straight for the guild and kick off training, then mid-rush down the hall, he slams on the brakes and freezes dead in his tracks. He rips through every pocket with frantic hands and the truth hits him hard. His adventurer's handbook is totally gone. He still hears Dahlia's voice in his head, commanding him to get out. Leave his gear behind when they kicked him out, and that memory hits so hard it makes him break into it. A cold sweat broke out all over him. Then it finally hits him, he literally can't take a single guild quest without that book, and the moment he thinks about getting it reissued, a full-blown headache hits, so he realizes there's only one option left, which is sprinting back to find the others even if he's so wrecked he can barely think about it, and when he finally makes the move, he tells himself it's painfully awkward, but at least he's calm enough now to deal with it. Eros replays the goodbye shot he just got, grits his teeth and decides he'll apologize for that too. But right outside the door he's still a jittery mess, staring at the handle like, how did my weak excuse even work on that guy? Yo, these arrows point over there and that's the group. A bunch of them are swapping stories when someone blurts out, wait, he wasn't actually useless like you all made him sound. And Kostoma finally admits he almost lost it laughing when Dahlia launched that forced persuasion, and Eros just stood there, totally baffled. Dahlia slams her voice down and tells everyone to go quiet. He spoke in a hushed voice, insisting that acting that way was the only thing that could finally make her walk away so they could push forward. That's when Eros finally clicks. His earlier excuse was a flat-out lie and he can't ignore it anymore. Something about the whole thing felt wrong from the start. Then it hits him, what if this isn't just bad luck? What if something else is driving all of it, something they can't even bring themselves to say out loud? Kostoma pressures to admit it, because battling the Skin King's army is just too dangerous for Eros, and Iris instantly agrees that letting him go was the right move. Iris shoots the group a sharp question, couldn't they have just trained those arrows a little better instead of tossing him aside? But Dahlia slams that idea down on the spot, tells Iris the real offensive is about to begin, and Eros, still lurking by the door, stays frozen in pure, jaw-dropping shock. Glycine backs her up as she eats and warns, if Eros stays on this mission, our final payout going to get wrecked, way smaller than promised. And Eros just stands there, totally frozen, because the moment he clicks, he realizes they didn't dump him for nothing, it was because he was watching their paycheck shrink fast. Dahlia keeps talking, and with arrows all around, she warns of a brutal catch. No matter how far they push from here, he could still end up taking the fall, stealing every last bit of the credit. Iris fires off the question, would that totally piss you all off? And Kostoma snaps back that it would for sure get under his skin. Dahlia drains the last sip of her tea and sets the cup down. T fires back that she can't stomach that either, and she makes her stance crystal clear. Arrow freezes outside the door, stunned out of his mind, and keeps blurting to himself that he stole their credit. When the truth hits him, it all clicks. Because the man who raised these heroes watches his own legend skyrocket every time they pull off something massive. And just like that, they made it clear, people can't claim their success is all because of their trainer. They'll burn with resentment at that idea. The truth smashes into him at last, and he finally realizes that. So that was the real reason they'd been pushing him out all along. Glycine cuts in and demands, shouldn't you've at least handed me some severance pay for helping you grow? Dahlia shrugs it off and tells Glycine, you're way too sweet, like this milk tea we're sipping right now. Dahlia keeps yapping and he leaned in and said, hand me anything and you'll only prove how much I've done for you. Kostoma jumps in and says firing him and tossing him out is the smartest play they've got. Dahlia instantly nods along. So Arrow just stands there, stunned, mumbling the trainer's lesson on repeat as it spirals through his head. His eyes bulge as their words hit like a wrecking ball, finally shattering him. He whips around and sprints off like a storm about to hit, tearing down the hallway, desperate to escape before anything catches up. He finally clocked it. None of this was about kicking him out for being weak or some burden dragging the party down. Nah, it was the exact opposite. They wanted to hog every last dollar for themselves and make sure he got zero credit. He tore out of the building and slammed into the busy street, and the crowd froze mid-step. Stop right there, what the hell is going on with him? He doesn't care at all, he just pushes through the crowd, mind locked on one thought, they used him and now they're done. He keeps telling himself it's true, his only real mission was to push everyone else higher, while he got shoved to the back and left with absolutely nothing. Arrows keeps sprinting, realizing he can't take down the Dragon King's army by himself. But teaming up with another group is a no-go. Once again, they'd squeeze him dry, then toss him aside like he never mattered. In the middle of the sidewalk, he yells that everything is totally useless. He bellowed at the top of his lungs about what a trainer even is, then shot his eyes to the street, apologized to his parents, and admitted he just wanted to. He wants revenge so badly, but it's starting to sink in, he just doesn't have what it takes to pull it off alone. He pushes through the crowd, thinking how real power is everywhere, how some stronger people will surely step up to take down the Dragon King's army. Arrows tells himself it's okay to walk away. He backs off like it's fine, like he's totally okay with it, then turns away from everything and starts asking himself what he's even supposed to do next. Arrow stands there alone, just blankly staring, with his thoughts spiraling on what he's meant to do with 2 months crash past and then bam, he's staring out over a valley, finally spotting something familiar out in the distance. He actually made it back to his hometown, the one he was born in, and seeing it again after all this time hits him with a strange, heavy feeling. Eros trudged through the roaring streets with a worn-out smile, slipping into the crowd like he belonged there as he headed inside. Everything hits him like a flood of memories, because he hasn't set foot in this place for 6 brutal years. He brushes past a group of young girls who look like they've just started their adventurer journey, practically vibrating with excitement, desperate to finally set out. The room is still packed with fresh rookies like it was back then, and he can't stop wishing they don't get the same fate as him. This is his hometown Humas. Around here, everybody just calls it the town of beginnings. It's so far beyond the demon lord's control and packed with pitiful weaklings that monster hunting gigs there practically fall into your lap. That's why this town is packed with fresh adventurers, all chasing a safe first step before they dive into anything bigger. With this many merchants and weapons smiths crowding the place, you can hunt down just about anything you need to get made. Right there at the perfect stop for travelers, because everyone swears the local food and drinks taste straight up legendary. Eros finally came back, like the fight wasn't over yet. He races back to his parents' graves, checks the old house one last time, and when he surveys the town now, he can't believe what he sees. He's telling himself it won't be so terrible to kick back here and just chill for the rest of his life. He strides toward the Adventurers Guild, then freezes mid-step when a girl behind him shouts his name. He whips around and there she is, grinning like she just cracked a secret, telling him she swore she'd seen his face somewhere before. She leans in and teases him like, "Wait, did you really forget who I am? After all this time?" And it hits him that it's Tara, so she bursts into laughter, tells him he's dead on, and reminds him how long it's been since they last saw each other. Eros glances at her clothes, then asks, "Are you still working as a receptionist at the town guild?" Killed, Tara only grins and shrugs it off, saying she's mostly fine, because after living here for years, she's gotten so used to it that it barely even phases her. Eros can't stop thinking about Tara Brune, her face flashes in his mind, and suddenly his voice cuts off like he's hit a wall. The guild receptionist who always had his back when he was still a wide-eyed rookie kicking off his journey, so seeing her again hits like a shockwave, and then she shushes him with one finger to her lips and tells him she's already heard the news about him. She leans in, starts asking if it's true he's joined Hero Dahlia's party, and that he's actually doing amazing things now, while Eros just freezes, staring in pure disbelief like she somehow read his whole life. And Tara flashes a proud grin, telling him she knew all along, and that she never once stopped believing he'd blow up. Ero breaks into a cold sweat, scrambling to insist it's not what she thinks, but she's already snapping the truth into place in her mind. Tara starts scanning the street with wild excitement, peppering the air with, "Are the heroes' party really here in town right now?" While Eros just freezes in place, quiet as a brick and radiating pure awkwardness. He panics, flails his hand, blurts out that it's not what she thinks because he finally blurts it out. He got kicked out of the hero's party, then she's left standing there completely stunned and totally lost. News hits and Tara's eyes blow wide. She freezes on the spot, trying to shove it all into her brain. Eros turns his head and tells him they said his job was done, that from now on he'd only get in the way, yet Tara just stares at him, silent as stone. Tara slumps down, realizing Eros just got booted from yet another party, and the disappointment hits hard. Eros shoots a shocked look and blurts out, "Wait, do you really remember all the stuff from the past?" And of course Tara tells him, because she's the one who watched him crumble the hardest back then. The word trainer zips across his mind, yanking him back to some brutal memories of a huge adventurer slammed into him and booted him to the floor, roaring that he's got to toughen up first before he ever dares to teach anyone else. Young Tara bolted over to check on him, only to find him collapsing in tears, whispering that he wanted to be stronger. He kept bawling his eyes out, begging that if he didn't get better, nobody would ever want him in their party again. And back in the present, Tara finally admits she honestly believed he'd be okay once he teamed up with Dahlia. But she snaps back to reality and lights up, realizing he's back in town to scout for fresh recruits. She winks at him and flashes him a huge, teasing grin like she's about to steal his breath. She shoots him a massive thumbs up and tells him to hand it all over to her. She's got this and she'll help him through it. Eros drops a bombshell. He's done with parties for good and that leaves. He leaves Tara totally stunned when she blurts out, "So you're really going solo now?" And he just rubs his head then. And then he instantly looks away, clearly embarrassed. Tara catches it right away, realizing it totally tracks that he wouldn't want a whole new team after everything. Getting kicked out still, she meets his gaze and insists he'd be a massive help too. No matter what group he tries to join, she drags up his old dream, bringing down the Dragon King. But Eros just waves it off, says he's done with that kind of work and will leave it all to the next batch of adventurers. Surprising her again, he snaps that there's no reason left for him to do it, and he refuses to go through that nightmare anymore. Tara doesn't force him to go back, but she leans in and tells him, "If anything changes, if you feel different, let me know." His mind raced. She still promised she'd help, swearing she'd slap a huge notice on the board for him and Air. Arrow grins and promises, "No matter what changes, I'll come find you, period." Arrow freezes for a heartbeat, then leans in and tells Tara he's got one last request to drop. She totally snaps the moment he announces he wants to re-register with the guild under a completely different name. Tara is still reeling in shock, but Eros just shrugs it off and calmly explains that since he lost his handbook, he needs a new. If he's getting a fresh start anyway, he might as well burn the whole thing down and begin again from scratch. Tara shoots a warning into his face. Sure, it can happen, but if it does, his rank will slam all the way down to level 5, and that means he'll lose access. Eros doesn't seem to mind at all. He claims he's got plenty of money saved for now, and he's not trying to pick anything wild or brutally difficult because he's basically on a mission to keep everyone from ever clocking that he's the very Eros who used to ride with the heroes team. He can already feel it. Dahlia's about to start talking trash any second, claiming Eros' floor was way too weak for the real fights. Turns out the rumors are already spreading. People everywhere are whispering that someone finally got booted out of the hero's party. At the bar, a bunch of guys are cracking up, betting the hero will toss him out, and swearing that the guy was probably crying his eyes out, begging him to let him stay. Someone else recalls him saying he was the guy with that insanely weird job title. In the tavern, the crowd won't shut up, spilling trash talk and talking pure smack, saying they'd always had a bad feeling about that guy, and honestly, it never surprised them one bit. Eros knows he stayed in the background the whole time, even as the heroes took center stage. The group makes him headline-worthy and Tara wastes no time. She agrees to help him out. She instantly gets fired up and blurts that they should just yanked him along before he could even blink or react. Eros tries to shut her down, blurting, "Hold on, are you even allowed to do this?" Because she's still supposed to be on her break. Tara doesn't even flinch. She shrugs and tells him it's fine because she can knock out the whole thing in the blink of an eye. As they stride along, she wastes no time and fires off the question, did he actually pick? Still hadn't picked a new name for himself. He decides to make it easy and just tells everyone he's going by Rose, which Tara finds totally random but she tears through the paperwork and slides it over without a second to waste. Over his fresh card, he blurts out a thank you, and she beams as he thanks her back for sticking with him and helping out. She flashes him a friendly wink and tells a fresh-faced adventurer finally lucked out and walked straight into a run of good fortune. Right as he starts to leave, she screams at. They pushed him along like, "Hurry up, we've got to grab food now," while Rose stayed behind to kick off his brand new journey. Rose stands dead center in town, hands on his hips, and today he kicks off his brand new life, officially starting over as a rookie adventurer under his fresh name. He hammers through the streets until he finally halts before that old, familiar building, his house. Staring at the jungle of weeds in the yard, he finally clicks. He didn't really travel at all, he just got dumped back exactly where it all began. It hits him like a punch. He's been kicked out of the hero's party, so he fumbles the door open, steps in, and whispers, "I'm home," like the words might change everything. The whole place looks wrecked, and it drags him back to that promise he made. He swore he'd only return after he crushed the Dragon King. But when he whips his head around and scans, dust clung in thick layers to everything, and he couldn't stop wondering, did he even really mean it? He starts hacking as dust storms into his lungs, and one stubborn thought takes over, whatever he used to believe. At this point, it doesn't even matter anymore. He takes one quick moment to sink into his trusty old rocking chair, then lets out a heavy, soul-deep sigh, like every creak is dragging him back to the good old days. Climb right back into his own seat. But that calm doesn't last, because the second he looks at his to-do list, he realizes the very first thing is cleaning. He jumps straight into planning everything, convinced he has to inspect every piece of furniture first. Grab the furniture and get out there, start weeding the garden ASAP. Arrow stares at the chaos and it hits him like a punch. There's a mountain of work waiting and he's already running on fumes. As he sinks back into his chair, he snaps. He's done with the hero grind and he's walking away, leaving the Dragon King to his old party. A whole month slips by as he finally locks into his brand new routine. And now he's out in the fields, scanning the base of the mountains like he's hunting a ghost, looking for one specific target. He spots them almost instantly, 2 flying boars, just like the ones from the quest he grabbed. Seeing how vicious they act, he finally understands why the local ladies were taking such a beating. So he snatches his sword, tells himself it's go time, and snaps his fingers to kick his focus into high gear. The boar comes charging at him, but he stays cool, then flicks his muscle and agility enhancements on like a switch. He's moving so fast he's basically a blur. He slashes straight through both of them in one single, unstoppable pass. He snaps the move through with a flawless follow-through, and suddenly the whole fight looks effortless, like it was nothing. Arrows takes out the first target with zero drama, then casually remarks, "Got one down," and marvels at just how easy it is to handle. He'd had it with these weak beasts, so he grabbed an ear as proof he'd sealed the kill. He turns and starts walking back, and for the first time it feels like things are finally lining up. Finally, he gets to live the kind of life that feels truly complete. He sprints back to the guild and flashes Terra a big hello, only for Terra to answer with "Ro," letting him know the job was finished, then praising him as she tells him he nailed the request. Since he's on fire right now, he leans in and asks, "Got any more jobs I can snatch up today?" But Tara asks if he'd rather go for a promotion exam, and he shuts the idea down without a second thought. She turns serious on him fast, telling him point blank that his strength could change so many more lives. And even though he claims he appreciates the gesture, you can tell he's got zero interest in crawling back to that life. He slips out in a flash, yelling that he'll be back tomorrow. Then Tara just stares as she realizes he basically bolted. Arrows tells Tara he understands what she's trying to say, but his mind's made up and he's not interested. Said honestly that he'd finally started loving the way he was living his life now. When he looks back, he can't believe how wild life got back when he was still part of the hero's party. He'd be sprinting from place to snag antidotes for everyone, or slaving over a campfire cooking food, still utterly wiped out. Thrown into constant battles and packed with every chore imaginable, he never even got a single breath of rest. And sure, he swears he stacked up a ton of cash, but the stress chewing at him still wasn't worth a single dime. And now he's just gliding through, like the whole world can't even slow him down. Simple requests, the kind he tore through and finished today. Spending his days at the market stocking up on supplies, and laughing his heart out with the shopkeepers, trading sharp looks and even sharper words. Then he'll just head back home and start cooking like nothing happened. Churn out a killer meal, or lose yourself in a good book. Just kicking back, living the most laid-back, slow-motion life imaginable. Barrow sinks into the silence of his house at night, thinking, finally, everything's going right for once. He stared at the cup and realized this calm life was exactly what he'd been hunting for. He throws his head back with a massive grin, feeling utterly free at last, like nobody can hold him down anymore. He's finally soaking in the fact that he's living life his own way. He throws back a huge stretch, doubling down on. So from here on out, he's choosing to live for only himself. Right then, bam, a deafening knock rattled the door. The door ruins his whole vibe, and now he's left wondering who in the world is creeping up so late. He yells, "I'm coming," and strides up to the front of the house, yanks the door open and freezes. There's a young girl in light armor standing right there, staring at him like she's about to spring into action. Arrows is completely blindsided and blurts out, "Who are you?" But the girl just freezes there, stammering like she can't even get the words out. Until she finally finds her courage, looks him in the eyes, and demands to know if he's really Rose, the legendary trainer everyone's talking about. Arrows just freezes there, eyes bulging wide like he can't believe what he's seeing. He was absolutely blown away, like his brain just hit the floor. He's seriously standing there like he knows him by name, like, how does this random kid even have that kind of intel? And the crazy part, he hasn't spilled a word to anyone. And since he rolled back into town, he hasn't called himself a trainer once, so the only person his mind lands on is Tara, because she's the one who'd actually talk, but he can't shake the fear she won't. The girl shoots him a nervous glance and blurts out, "Tell me, are you really Rose?" A sick gut feeling hit him. If he said yes, his peaceful life would be ripped away for good. He scratches his head and blurts out, "Are you sure I'm the right guy?" And it leaves him hanging. Sweat pours off him as he scrambles to act normal and keep his cover intact. He looked absolutely devastated by her answer, like her whole world had just collapsed in front of him. Fell apart, she starts bowing non-stop blurted apologies for the massive mistake, and Eros feels absolutely crushed. Because she tells the truth like it's straight from the heart. Eros looks completely wrecked, then blurts out, trying to kick off an explanation before everything spirals. He tries to lay it out and tell the kid she's wrong, but the kid folds almost instantly, finally admitting that, yeah, he's actually Rose after all. Then he blurts it out, he never, ever called himself a trainer, and that cuts the girl's words off at the worst. Lost, he throws in the towel on the act and straight up asks her who gave her his name in the first place. The girl stammers through it, admitting she got the info from a really kind woman at the guild's reception desk. Eros finally pieces it together. Tara was the one who sold him out. And he looks absolutely furious as the girl tries. So she keeps the conversation going and drops this. She heard a real trainer is actually living nearby. And this guy was the real deal. An expert who could crank any adventurer up to their full potential. She stares at him with wide, shaking eyes and asks if he'll make her stronger, and that question hits him hard. He caught him completely off guard. He realizes he screwed up the moment he started asking questions. Now he's trapped in this conversation with no way out. The red-haired girl forces a smile, then admits, straight through the nerves, that her progress is crawling compared to everyone else. Even after a whole year of adventuring, she's still trapped at level 3. She even confessed she got kicked out of her last party too, so now those arrows are looking even worse. She stood there looking utterly stunned, eyes sunk with despair, then blurted, "No other party will even let me join them anymore." Eros is hit with regret, and he blurts out an apology for tossing out such a heavy question like it was nothing. But the girl spirals into panic, blurts out apologies nonstop, and feels absolutely awful for unloading her problems on a stranger. She drops her gaze to the dirt and blurts that no matter how hard she fights, she's still nothing but useless. Then drops into a deep bow and she blurts out, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you this late at night." She bolts into the dark, vanishing into the night while arrows stay planted in his doorway. Thinking about her situation hits him, and then it clicks that being stuck at level 3 for a whole year is it's absolutely unreal how slow it gets. Arrow can't stop staring at the girl's situation, and his mind spirals into one brutal question. After a whole year, shouldn't a real adventurer be at level 10? But she doesn't look like a slacker, so he can't help guessing she's probably. Sounds like he's just been training the wrong way this whole time. He stares at his hands and starts piecing it all together like, with my exact skill set, I can make this work. He could train her for real, push her into a decent party, then he snaps out of it, then scratches the back of his head like he's trying to shake the confusion loose. He blinked, staring at the sky like, what was he even thinking, jumping back into this again? He lets out a heavy, drawn-out sigh, like it jolts his memory and reminds him. He told himself he'd already paid the price for training others, then he just cut it off, leaving. He storms out, hands still on the door, even though he can't shake the feeling this girl won't turn into another Dahlia. He just keeps pacing around his place, like he can't stop searching for something. Watching the kid, I couldn't ignore how honest and dead serious he seemed. As he drops into his chair, he just keeps mumbling to himself, over and over, that she's an absolute workhorse. He stares out the window, telling himself, if she just keeps grinding, her level will rise all by itself. Arrow slumps there, completely wiped out, replaying how he ended up lying to that girl, and everything that came after. But even as guilt crushes him, his mind still keeps on going. So now he's convinced it's all Tara's fault for running her mouth, and he can't stop spiraling over, fretting that her level might never climb for real, making him clutch his head, pure frustration exploding out of him. So tell me why it's always him, stuck carrying all that guilt and pressure like it's weighing him down from the inside. He decides on the spot. Tomorrow, first thing, he'll storm into the guild and lay it all out to Tara, so this kind of disaster never hits again. The very next morning, he storms into the Adventurers Guild, only to realize Tara's actually off duty today. So he lets out a heavy sigh and heads straight for the forest west of town. Since he was already there, he might as well grab an easy subjugation quest and knock it out fast. He stalks through the trees, still fuming, muttering to himself about why Tara had to tell everyone he was a trainer in the first place. When he hears someone screaming in the middle of a fight nearby, it yanks him out of his own head. He halts in his tracks, scanning the area like a hunter, wondering if some other adventurer is out here battling something. Then it hits him. That voice feels way too familiar. Arrow crouches in the bushes, and the moment the red-haired girl from yesterday sprints straight past him, total shock hits him like a punch. He can't believe his eyes. There she is, right in the middle of the path, heaving breaths as she glares down at a huge deer whose antlers blaze like fire. Arrow spots her opponent, and it's a blazing fire deer, the exact same target he had been planning to hunt for his own quest. At first, he thinks maybe they just got the same job by coincidence, but then he snaps out of it because this whole situation screams, something's very wrong. He remembers she's only level 3, so there's no way the guild would have let her pick up a quest like. But this power was way too dangerous for someone to handle at that level. It finally clicks, she's out here, pushing herself harder and harder, training alone to get stronger. After he shoved her back, he lurked in the shadows, watching her like a secret threat. She clocks it, she's barely hanging on, desperately grinding levels, then clenches her teeth and she charges straight at the beast, sword up and ready to strike. Arrows knows that those fire deer may look fearsome, but they're far from the toughest monsters out there. Searching out there for someone who already knows the ropes. That's not how it goes for a beginner. He's watching, wide-eyed, as she winds up for a brutal swing and the deer slips out of the way like it's nothing at all. The deer blasts out scorching heat and rockets forward at insane speed, and the girl is left gasping, desperately trying to keep up with a danger she's clearly not prepared for. The fire deer blasts her with a huge wall of flames straight on, and the red-haired girl yells about how scorching it is, while Arrow just watches, stunned, thinking there's no way a level 3 should be pulling this off, leading. He leads the beast into a brutal sprint, and with one sudden burst it lunges forward, making the girl yank back with a terrified shriek as those blazing antlers almost catch her. She realizes the monster isn't even breaking a sweat, it's just toying with her like she's a plaything, and that turns the whole nightmare up to a whole new level. As he starts to panic because what she's doing is beyond reckless, and he knows that if this doesn't stop, she's going to die. While he's still baffled at how anyone would gamble their life just for a few extra levels, the girl steels herself, screams at the top of her lungs, and rockets back in, charging forward, and she commits to the big swing. But the deer bolts faster than lightning, slipping past her blade like it's nothing and leaves her completely wide open. She refuses to quit, her eyes lock in like a hunter-s, and she studies the deer's next move then. Then she actually studies the monster's pattern and swings her blade straight down, bam, catching the deer off guard and nicking it right as she calls it, like she saw it coming. Breathless and soaked in sweat, she lets out a shaky little laugh. She finally connected. But Arrow instantly feels it, something's terribly wrong. And she cuts herself off mid-thought, freezes and stares in pure shock, because her tiny victory did. It didn't shift the battle's momentum one bit. That tiny hit lands and it backfires instantly because it enrages the deer and she drives a hoof straight into her. She gasps, knocking the wind clean out of her as she groans in agony, feeling every last ounce of that brutal hit. That beast isn't finished. It whips around at blinding speed and she's left nailed to the ground, gasping. He shoves her to understand it's way too dangerous for her, and then he lunges for his sword. Even while she's choking and fighting for breath, her red hair keeps slipping as she struggles to hold on. That long-haired girl just won't back down, jaw clenched as she vows, "I'm not finished yet." Finally, the arrow stopped freezing up. Peeking from the bushes, he spots her pure determination burning bright, and then he watches her. And she keeps grinding forward, insisting she has to speed up and get way stronger no matter what. So she rockets back into the battle, screaming at the monster to move aside, and to just stand still. Still screaming at the top of her lungs, begging the deer to just drop dead and hand over the experience points she's desperate for. When she rockets back in, the arrows can't help but gape. Who in their right mind would risk everything just to level up like that? Seeing her struggle, Arrows goes silent and stares down, realizing the red-haired girl is terrified. Like, if she doesn't level up fast, she'll never be wanted on anyone's team again. And the moment he sees that look in her eyes, it punches straight through him, because he's felt that exact same thing before. Locked in to prove herself, she grits through the pain and tells herself over and over that she has to get stronger. So she barrels back in with her sword raised, jaw set, thinking there's a massive reason she can't possibly lose. But right as she goes for it, her eyes snap wide. Something feels wrong and it hits her fast and her foot snags on the path, yanking her off balance. She gasps and blurts out as she trips, sending her. She face planted into the dirt and pain raged through her as the deer just stood there, staring like it didn't care. The beast doesn't so much as twitch, just locks eyes on her, dead cold, staring her down like it's waiting for her to blink before. Right as it lunges in out of nowhere, it clamps down so hard she's pinned flat to the ground, terrified beyond words for what hits next. The deer looms over the red-haired girl, steaming out hot breath, and she just freezes, eyes wide, mouth barely moving. As Arrows finally blurts out, he tells her he clocked what was going on. Then, right before he triggers a muscle boost, he barrels forward to shout at the. He screamed at the top of his lungs and piled on another agility enhancement, blasting his speed even higher. And he rockets forward like a bullet, charging straight at the monster and blasting a huge cloud of dust behind him. As he lunges past the girl with his dagger out, Arrow suddenly can't stop wondering if the guilt he's been swallowing lately was going to be the thing that finally crushes him. It wasn't some dramatic twist at all, it was pure lingering regret, because he'd wasted all that time fretting over whether she'd truly be okay on her own. His eyes snap onto the beast, pure focus gripping every inch of him, and right then the girl snaps her gaze up to him with wide, shaking eyes, and the real reason he's here finally clicks in her mind. Arrow drops his nose to the ground, desperate to help her, then charges in with a hard slam into. He slammed it into the dirt right before the deer, so hard the whole ground shuddered. He dug in his heels, planting himself right between her and the beast, ready to make sure nothing got past him, so she stays safe. Arrows checks if she's okay, and the girl snaps her head up at him, wide-eyed and shocked, before blurting out thanks for his help. But then she freezes mid-step, quizzing him, who is he really, as she desperately tries to recall where she met him yesterday. Arrow rubs his head, suddenly realizing he hasn't been truthful at all, so he braces himself to finally. He reached out with his hand, ready to introduce himself the right way, and told her, "I'm the rose, your nurturer." The girl starts clicking the clues together and she leans in, asking if he's really the legendary trainer everyone can't stop talking about, and Arrows locks eyes with her, insisting he has to kick things off with a real, heartfelt apology. Because after yesterday's meet, guilt crushed him for lying straight to her. He drops to her level, explains that everything's been chaos lately, and admits he never wanted anyone to know what he does, then leaves her hanging. She just gawked at him in total shock, while he quickly switched the topic to warn her how close she'd come to disaster. Arrows snaps into seriousness and tells her straight up that battling that fire deer alone was a massive blunder, because that monster is way out of her league. Rose asks what would have happened if he hadn't rushed in to help, and just as she's speaking, he stops dead. He might be coming off way too harsh, but he drives it home. Getting stronger means nothing if she's dead. The girl drops her gaze and blurts out an apology for being so reckless, yet Rose cools the chaos, softening her tone and saying, he says he gets it, she must have some killer reason for chasing power, even if it could ruin everything. The moment it clicks for him, her eyes flood with tears as they start to brim over, and she just breaks down and starts sobbing right there. Right there, boom, Rose gets completely blindsided as he starts to figure out what to do while she desperately fights to get the words out. Mom is in trouble. She screams that all she wants is to save her mom, and that's exactly why she's about to do what comes next. She's driving herself to the limit, because when Rose hears that her own mom was cursed by the Spirit King's army, her whole world just stops. And that's huge because that army is a top-tier demon squad, Ruthless, led by the Spirit King Vamp. The red-haired girl leans in and tells me that, about a year ago, her mom was attacked by an officer from the Spirit King's army. And right during that attack, her mom got slammed with a weakness curse. She stares downward as she tells the story, then adds because the curse has gotten so out of control lately that her mother can barely even stand on her own anymore. Right now, the village chief and a few friends are all that stand between her and disaster, but it's looking seriously bleak. Rose's eyes narrow with real worry as she hears it, because a curse like that doesn't just sound bad, it's going to be a total nightmare to deal with. The girl grips her fists in her lap and she says, no matter how hard they fight, medicine and healing magic just refuse to work. And Rose nods along, flat out saying it's basically hopeless to try treating that kind of curse with normal stuff. He shuts his eyes tight, trying to figure out what it would really take to shatter her mother's curse, because to break a curse like that, you've got to hit a super specific checklist. One wrong step and it won't budge. So either they track down the one who unleashed it and put them down for good, or he has to snatch a different solution, fast, before time runs out. Rose lays it all bare, telling the girl they've got only two choices: strike down an officer from the Spirit King's army or hunt down a specialist who can shatter the curse. And when she fires the question, do you know? He already knew that. He rubs his head, then straight up admits that both routes are going to be brutally hard to pull off. He's already clocked it. One top-ranking officer in that army is going to be massively overpowered, and there's no way a normal fight stands a chance, making that option nearly impossible. So then he pitches the idea of hiring a professional curse breaker. But even so, he can tell the girl is already slipping into full-on discouragement. She tells him she dug into it for real and bam, turns out there's only one person on the planet with the exact job class that can use curse-breaking magic. Lotus shows up, but the second she brings up his fee, she shuts down, like the price is so high it crushes whatever she thought she could afford. She'd ever be able to afford it. Rose snaps to attention when she sees the name she remembers. He's got one strict rule: this Lotus only takes jobs from the super rich or the absolute most famous adventurers on the whole planet. Still, he snaps that paying the guy is way more realistic than trying to kill a demon general, and the girl finally start to get why he's saying all this. A sudden thought snaps through Rose's mind and he blurts out, so the real reason you've been grinding to get stronger is what? And when she says it out loud, she's dead certain if she can just get strong enough, she'll finally make the money to pay for her mother's cure. The red-haired girl snaps it straight. You either find a way to rip the curse out of your life, or you join forces with a crew strong enough to crush the Spirit King's army. And she knows this is the only way out, but the brutal truth of just how hard it's going to be starts hitting her heavy and fast. That path is so impossibly narrow she might as well be trapped, and the mounting pressure finally starts cracking her from the inside. Rose watches her and the whole thing feels impossible, like her thoughts are screaming it as the girl freezes in place, stammering over herself, and the words just won't come. She snaps under the pressure, sobbing hard as she begs, so what am I even supposed to do if there's no way to save my mother? She finally admits it. She's got zero talent, and no matter how hard she busts her ass, she just can't level up or get stronger. Rose refuses to sit back and do nothing. She won't just stand there while it all unfolds. Watch her crumble like that, so he steps in and tells her to stop panicking because he's finally decided to accept, blasting the bombshell that he's not just anybody, he's a trainer, and he's convinced he has what it takes to finally help her unlock her full potential. The girl is completely blindsided. She blurts, "Why would you say that to me?" when just moments ago he was so obsessed with hiding his identity. And Rose just sits there, straight up admitting that while he still wants to stay under the radar, but he's making one dangerous exception just for her. Rose drops his gaze and spills the truth. His own parents were crushed by the Demon Lord's army. They were killed by some random foe. Dragon King Doran, the Dragon Army's leader, erased them himself. He refused to let her mother become another victim, just like his parents were. And staring her right in the eyes, those roses in view like a challenge. Rose swears he means every single word, no shortcuts, no lies. Before he even heard the whole story, he'd already made up his mind. He was going to help her. But panic snaps through the girl's chest. She's terrified because she has nothing to hand back to him after he helped her. Rose snaps at her not to sweat it, even as he can't quite figure out why he's doing any of this in the first place. He brushed it off with a shrug, saying he wasn't hurting for cash or anything like that made it all okay. He tells her, just pay me back later when you feel like it, like this whole mess is unfolding on its own. But then his smile drops. He admits he can't promise he'll stay by her side until her mother's curse is finally shattered. Rose locks eyes with the girl and swears he truly wanted to help, promising he'll stand guard over her until she finds a new party to join. She's so overwhelmed with relief that tears spring to her eyes. She lets out a shaky breath before she can even get out a simple yes. The girl keeps blurting out thanks again and again, practically pouring out how much his help means to her, and asks him to look after her from now on, so Rose just grips her hand and flashes a grin saying he can't wait to do it. They sealed their partnership on the spot, right then and there. But then she ramps up, screaming at him, demanding to know what he's even supposed to do. Rose got completely blindsided the moment he pushed back on it first. He tries to calm her down, promising they can. She's got to drag herself through another day, because what she survived has to have her absolutely wiped out. But she'll never listen when you push it. She's completely fine and way tougher than she looks. Rose reminds her that the fire deer earlier literally knocked her out cold, but she's already got an excuse lined up and ready to fire back. Already, she snapped that she was only stunned from getting tackled, and that the shock alone was why she passed out in the first place. She stands there, absolutely seething with energy, and then she rides. Rose can't help but clock just how wildly packed with energy she actually is. Rose locks eyes with the girl and realizes her motivation is strong enough to begin. Then she spots one tiny detail that changes everything. He realizes they haven't even introduced themselves, so he blurts out her name and the girl snaps because she totally forgot the basics. She snaps upright, face full of pure seriousness, and screams, "My name is Rose Vermilion." Rose stepped up and introduced himself as Rose Floor, grinning like, "Nice to finally meet you officially." Watching her stand there trembling with pure electric excitement, Rose blurts back that it's nice to meet him too. Her energy levels skyrocketed to an all-time high. Then she closes the distance, plants herself right in his face and demands, "So what do I do first and what's the plan?" She's practically vibrating with excitement, and it's starting to overwhelm Rose fast. So he freezes for a heartbeat, staring at her like his brain can't decide what's happening. Ro rubs the back of his head, like he's stuck on what to do next. He tilts his head and fires off the question, where should they even begin? And it knocks the wind clean out of her. Because in his head, he's realizing he's only ever faced mid-level adventurers, until right now. Rose Fleur rubs the back of his head and blurts out. He admits he has no clue where to even begin training a brand new rookie. Mostly because he'd never once heard of a job called Apprentice Warrior, not in his whole life. That's the kind of move that blindsides everyone in the crowd. She grips the guard's attention and fires back, "How did you even know what I do when I haven't told you a thing?" Rose Fleur blurts out a shaky apology, then explains how his divine eye automatically reads everyone's info without him lifting a finger. And that's what leaves Rose absolutely speechless, scrambling to process how he's got a power that wild. He tells himself that this skill is only there to make his job easier, so why does it still feel like there's something more behind it, because he can see in perfect detail exactly what each student needs to fix right now. He tells her to show him her status screen, the official way to stay safe, and she nods, then does it immediately. She kicks off the whole process to yank up her information. Then a glowing scroll bursts into view, laying out every detail of her current power and the path she's destined to follow. Most people need a special chant just to see it, so Rose Fleur simply thanks her and immediately takes a look. Rose Fleur leans in and tells the girl his special power is basically this: he can spot everyone's info automatically, like it's always there. Rose shoves her scroll forward and asks if it's the same thing he saw. He nods hard, saying it's exactly that. She's still reeling because he can spot someone's job and power level in an instant, and when he blurts it out, the shock practically explodes out of him. Rose awkwardly blurts out that he's trying not to steal too many looks, because it feels like he's secretly peeping on everyone. He snatches her official status paper, and the moment he sees it, he knows his eyes weren't lying to him at all. The numbers on that page are brutal. She's just a level 3 apprentice, and every single stat is stacked with F ranks. He knows level 3 is supposed to be weak, but this one feels way more brutal than it should. Especially because those bottom-tier numbers come straight from her grinding herself to the bone for an entire year. That blessing meant to supercharge her physical strength is stuck at the absolute bottom rank. And to make it even worse, she hasn't unlocked a single skill or magic through all her leveling yet. Rose Fleur flicks open her stats and stares them down like they're about to reveal her next move. And he's convinced she can't possibly have been just resting. Rose Vermilion starts getting all flustered, and she blurts that it's the honest truth, she just can't help feeling shy. I'm not gonna lie, being stared at that intensely feels weirdly awkward. He yells her name at the top of his lungs, and she whips around instantly. He leaned in, demanding to know what he needed. Rose demands to know what she's really been doing for the past year, then it hits her like a punch. She starts panicking, blurting, "Am I in trouble?" while swearing she's been trying her absolute hardest. He tells her to breathe, saying all he wants is to hear how her days actually go, right down to what she does every routine, leaving. She steadies herself and starts explaining like, "I'm not upset, I just started." At 14, he kicked off his journey, grabbing low-rank hunts while hunting for the right team to join. Money never stuck around, so she had to hustle non-stop with odd jobs across the city just to keep herself alive. Rose admits it sounds like the usual chaos of a rookie's life, but one massive detail still doesn't line up. He's like, "That's insane, why isn't she level 10 yet? Those first levels should have been a cakewalk for her." Rose finally drops her guard and admits with a shaky breath that the whole situation is straight up weird. She looks heartbreakingly sad, like the numbers on her record don't match a person who's been an adventurer for a whole year. She's completely crushed, looking Rose dead in the eye and admitting she can tell it, too, she has no talent for this life. But Rose just grins and tells her she has nothing to feel sorry for, so that kindness shocks her more than anything. He stands in the woods talking like he's got to prove it. She's nothing like the norm. It's not a deal breaker at all. He basically means her growth is just slower than everyone else's, and that's the whole issue right there. Rose leans in and says it's simple. Just figure out how to blast that growth into overdrive. And because that's exactly what a trainer does, he's got the whole thing locked in, making Rose snap into shock as she finally grasps his plan. A towering deer ablaze with flames erupts from the trees in a brutal leap, and you can tell this thing is trouble. Rose finally snaps, screaming that it's a flare Bambi fire deer, while she stands there, eyes locked on the monster as it moves. Rose keeps her eyes locked on the monster, and decides this is the fastest, no excuses way to power through her training. He casually leans in and asks Rose if she wants to try taking the beast down herself, then it cuts off mid-words. It totally blindsides her and she jolts into a full-on scream, demanding what on earth he's even talking about. She's losing her mind, snapping that he just blocked her path, like, right after she got there. Get ready, he was slammed, rocked, and left battered by this monster. But Rose won't back off. She snaps that her sword's got to be ready, because whatever's out there is charging straight for them. With the deer closing in, Rose snaps his magic on, zinging a spell right as it lines up to strike. Cranking both strength and resistance into the hit, it drives her back hard. The boat Rose starts glowing like it just got hit with a fresh burst of pure power. Heaves a breath, then stares at her own hands, still totally lost, like she can't believe the power is actually real. Rose snaps at her, "Hold it together, don't fall apart now." They stayed together and planted their feet, refusing to run even as he smashes into her blade with a brutal surge of force. The monster gets blasted backward like a brick wall just smashed into it, and Rose comes out completely unscathed. The monster rockets backward through the air and Rose just freezes, staring like she can't believe what she's seeing. Still reeling, he was left completely stunned by what just happened. It happened and she can't believe what she's seeing, staring in shock as she blurts, "Wait, did I just deflect that with my own hands?" Alone, Rose snaps back to clear it all up. He didn't leave her hanging, he actually threw some support magic on her. He tells him to give her a hand because her physical strength has skyrocketed. And now she's fighting back because her resistance to fire is the power that won't let it burn her. He's cranked it up and then he leans in and tells her that power she felt is exactly how the magic works, and Rose can't stop thinking like the whole thing is. Rose smiles and tells her she's finally safe to hunt monsters. So she tightens her grip on her sword and charges forward, ready to go. Throws on her gear and rockets ahead with a scream, but Rose realizes, buffs or not, her level is still way too low. So her base stats aren't exactly shining. He eyes the fire deer and realizes she's about to hit a brutal wall trying to pull this off. To slice straight through that brutal armor, his finger jabs forward, zeroing in on the fight because he knows support magic can. Snaps his fingers and barks for a sharpness boost, and suddenly her blade slices clean through anything. Rose leans in and tells him his support magic doesn't just help people, it powers up weapons and armor too, while he leans in and tells you the weapon's not just any weapon, it's specifically the one made from. It cranks up the sharpness right as Rose whips her glowing blade through the air. She drives the swing to the hilt, and the enchanted blade bites straight through the monster's brutal, thick hide. Rose stands there panting hard, utterly drained from the brutal toll of that attack. She stares down at the corpse of the monster, breath catching, like she can barely finish the sentence. To finally clock the truth that they clinch the win and she's shaking as she blurts out, "Wait, did we really just pull that off?" She glares at the beast and pushes the question again, did she really win? Still, she's hunting for her teacher's confirmation that she truly crushed it. Rose shoots her a tiny round of applause. He points out the flaws, then flat out tells her, "Yeah, you really did pull it off." He shoves a crumpled paper into her hands and tells her. Rose doesn't even buy it, she just stares there, totally baffled by her so-called divine revelation. Rose snatches a glance at the paper and blurts, "No way," then just sits there, staring like she can't believe what she's seeing, her mouth hanging open. Mouth hanging wide, like he couldn't believe what he just saw. And her eyes went so wide they looked like they were about to pop right out of her skull. She explodes into yelling, demanding to know if her level shot up so hard she couldn't even process it. Somehow it jumped 2 whole levels in one go. Levels at once, her paper screams the truth. She's finally a level 5 apprentice warrior now, and her stats are surging up like they've just awakened. She points her finger in the right direction, bragging that she's slaughtered countless monsters before, but her level never budged until. Right now, Rose cuts in to remind him, yeah, he lent a hand with that support magic, but in the end, she's the one who finished it all by herself. He tells her that this massive power-up doesn't just come out of nowhere. She's fueling it with divine essence she snagged after her first huge kill. But Rose just looks absolutely unstoppable. She's completely lost, and then she blurts out, word for word, "First kill and divine essence," like she's hearing it for the first time. Rose slams on the brakes, grabs her attention, and asks if she even understands the real reason why killing monsters makes someone. And she just shrugs like, "I thought God basically drops experience points after you win." Rose jumps in fast, saying, "Yeah, but it's actually called Divine S. There's more than you think, this story goes way deeper," and points out that the final results swing wildly depending on who actually defeats that monster. And you see exactly how they pull it off. He breaks it down with a clear example. A fire deer is usually reserved for adventurers who have hit level 10 or higher. But as soon as Rose yanked it down, at level 3, one single hit slammed into her, and she tore through the stage with a massive bonus. And on top of that he goes, and every time someone lands the first ever hit on a brand new magical beast, the rewards come straight for their courage. Which leaves the adventurer staring at a mountain of divine essence, even bigger than before. Rose stares at her paper and straight up admits she had zero idea what this first kill bonus was supposed to mean. Rose tells her it's way more normal than people think. Most folks don't have a clue how those exact mechanics even work. Then he blurts out that his own cheering skills helped too, and Rose is left staring like she's completely lost. He figures talk won't cut it, so he shouts for a revelation, and boom, a glowing scroll materializes in front of her. Rose jabs a finger at a particular spot on the scroll, then tells Rose to look right there, under the skill list. And he lays it out. His cheer power blasts everyone within reach with 5 times the usual divine essence. Rose slams the brakes on him, eyes wide and shaking, and blurts out, "So that really means a 5 times multiplier." Rose casually drops the confirmation as she stands there, stunned, trying to make sense of the news. She clicks everything into place and shoots back, "So does this mean I can grow 5 times faster?" And he answers. He leans in and tells her, "That's it right on the nose." It finally clicks for her, and in pure shock she blurts out a scream while Rose just smiles like she knew it all along. Then he shoots her a wink and tells her to keep the speed up, because they're about to wipe out even more monsters. As the sun crawls toward the horizon, Rose stays tucked in behind her scarf, grinning and giggling like she's hiding a secret. Staring at her character sheet in total disbelief, somehow she'd leaped all the way up to level 7. She snaps into a frantic sprint, looping around and around, yelling she can't even wrap her head around how she gained that much power in one single day. Ever since Rose kicked things off, she's already wiped out 8 magic beasts, and the hype has her spinning in circles like she can't even sit still. And honestly, that's wild, especially for someone who's just starting out as an adventurer and Rose watches her with. He flashed her a grin, telling her that all this quick. Her progress isn't magic at all. It's the payoff of every grueling hour she's thrown into her own grind. Rose instantly snaps back, yelling that it's all because of him, then he just stares and thanks her for being. She admits that the moment she heard he was a trainer back then, she figured he must have just been born knowing the right workout tricks. But Rose just shrugs it off with a laugh, claiming nobody else in the world has a job quite like his. He leans in and tells them most people would never guess they'd ever run into someone whose skills were crafted from the ground up for just this, which slings Rose right back into a full-on spinning panic, yelling that his job is insanely rare and absolutely incredible. Then she halts mid-motion and demands, "Wait, are you?" Turns out he's secretly part of one of the top-tier legendary parties, and it smacks him right in the face, catching him completely off guard. She leans in even closer, her mind racing. Did some legendary crew already spot him and reel him in for those insane support moves? Rose can't stop thinking to herself, there's just no way a top-tier party would ever fall for something like this. Turn down a gig that good. Then her excitement spikes again and she blurts out, "Wait, are you really part of the hero's party?" For a beat, Rose goes stone still, eyes down, weight pressing on her face. Then he finally snaps the silence, tells Rose he's not joining any party, and makes it crystal clear he wants nothing to do with teaming up with anyone, leaving. She's left completely stunned, and he admits that so much has happened lately. He just wanted to keep his whole vocation under wraps, but making. Rose felt awful and she shot into immediate damage control. She apologized fast, admitting she'd been insensitive for prying like that. But Rose starts flailing his hands around, blurting to her, "Hey, it's really nothing, don't stress, you're gonna be fine." He admits he just wants a calm, quiet life right now, so he won't join a team, and that's when Rose says. The girl goes silent for a moment, eyes pinned to the ground as if something heavy just hit her. While Rose watches her and he just can't shake the guilt, no matter how hard he tries. Rose keeps insisting he's totally fine with what happened, but his face is on fire with blush, and he fumbles over the words like he can't believe his own feelings. She tells him that having someone as incredible as him working with her one-on-one is a massive deal, especially because it all started with. It feels like she's hogging him, like he's only hers. She instantly clocks how it sounds and panic detonates. She's left staring at herself like, what am I even saying? She beams at him with a huge, heartfelt smile and thanks him one last time. Rose froze on the spot for a heartbeat, eyes locked on her like her mind just couldn't process what she was seeing. Then Rose leans in and promises she'll give it her all, even if she's a handful, and she can't stop smiling about finally getting to work with him. Rose locks eyes with her and starts spiraling in his own head, thinking, wait, did he just wonder if he's buzzing because his real gig is finally being a trainer. He wondered if he was finally starting to feel it too, then flashed a smile and told Rose, "Let's both give it everything tomorrow." Gazing up at the sky, he finally gets it. He's the one who should be thanking her. Rose spots the sun slipping toward the horizon and tells Rose it's time to head back to town. Rose is bursting with hype. She can barely hold herself back as she screams that she's never been this excited for a hunt in her life. Rose locks eyes with her and snaps, "Do me a favor, actually get some sleep tonight," while secretly vowing to tap every ounce of his experience to forge her into someone unstoppable. And he's leveling up into a top-tier adventurer, ready to storm into a power-packed party. Rose cuts right through his thoughts by skipping. Jabbing a finger upward, he skips around and asks what skills he thinks she'll end up with. He shrugs and admits he has no clue, so she launches straight into a daydream, just picturing something flashy and cool. The very next morning, right at the Gildan Rose, he's already sprinting into the chaos, screaming apologies like his life depends on it. She clasps her hands tight and bows her head, begging for forgiveness over and over like she can't stop apologizing. What a wild way to kick off the day. Rose just barged in to meet her for their scheduled hunt. The second one locks eyes with the brunette receptionist, Tara, then drops into a deep bow. And she looks totally wrecked as she fires off, asking him if it feels unfair that she has to start by apologizing. Rose calls her out for claiming she's a trainer, but Tara completely spirals and insists she couldn't just leave the kid on her own. She blurts out that Rose just got booted from her party, and she's pretty sure Rose already knows. So he shoots her a worn-out look, then confirms, yeah, the kid spilled everything to him herself. Tara keeps pushing forward, saying Rose tried everything she could, begging to get back in her old group or scrambling to find a brand new one. But every place she tried shut her down, and she ended up sobbing her eyes out after every single no. Rose pauses for a beat, eyes drifting away, and thinks, wait, this is crazy easy. So vivid you can practically see her doing it. Tara tells them rookie adventurers usually crave power so badly it's almost desperate. like they'll do anything just to become strong and make a. They didn't just want to be known, they wanted to blow up and leave their mark on the world. They've got no space left for anyone else, so. Which is why things get pretty brutal the moment they turn someone down. Rose lets out a heavy sigh because Tara couldn't stand it. She stepped in the second she spotted someone in trouble. And he leans in and tells her, straight up honestly. And just like always, her heart stayed soft as ever. He breaks into a light laugh, teasing her with a reminder of how she used to have his back then. But Tara shoots back a tease and basically calls him the type of guy who can't stand being alone either. She suddenly turns serious, admitting she really wanted to help that kid and that new Rose was the best way to do it. She follows it with a rushed apology. She never checked with him before going ahead and setting the whole thing up. Tara snaps her hands together like, wait, got it. And she leans in, asking if he still remembers the promise they made to grab dinner together someday. She tells Rose the meal's on her, but he just freezes there, totally blindsided. Tara insists she'll dress up extra cute to make it even, leaving Rose completely baffled. Tara leans into her clothes, sizing Rose up with a sly grin, then pounces on him. Be honest, would you really rather I wear something more mature and sexy for dinner? Which hurls him into full-blown panic as he screams that a normal outfit is totally fine. Tara just laughs it off, says it's all settled now and finally, she ripped herself away and sprinted back to her post at the guild. Rose stood there, cheeks blazing with a blush, trying to figure out what insane outfit she was even planning to pull on. She snaps his name into the air like a warning. Just one last time before she leaves, and Rose jolts a little as she answers her. Tara shot him a grateful look and thanked him for stepping in to help the girl. She kept her gaze locked on her, sure her eyes were telling the truth. But Rose is completely baffled. How could she possibly know he'd do it? She tells him straight up, I can spot it just by looking at you. And then he leans in with a smug smirk, basically saying, only a softie would spot another softie. She jabs a finger at him and declares, with full confidence, that he's got the softest heart of his own. Tara flashes a goodbye wave, then sprints back to work, leaving Rose alone, stuck standing there by himself. The girl with the ribbon flashed a smug smirk. Merc smirks and says it takes a softie to do it. Then the red-haired girl jolts, panics, and yells for Alien. Completely blindsided, Tara gets flustered in seconds and blurts out, wait, did you really get that from eavesdrop? Dropping on their entire conversation. But the ribbon girl dodges the question and straight up tells them how wildly that young man's vibe has shifted lately. She spills that back then she couldn't figure out why Tara was so obsessed with some guy who just kept strutting around, wearing nothing but a fake smile, like he'd already decided to pretend. Tara just swivels her gaze with a bashful grin and admits, yeah, up close or not, it totally looked that way from the outside. The girl with the ribbon smiles softly and tells him, with this new attitude, I'm actually excited to watch you grow into a real adventurer. Tara starts to spill something else, then glances over her shoulder as she gets ready to explain why. Why is she so obsessed with him? Because deep down she knows the real truth about who Rose is, no masks, no lies. Turns out he's no ordinary guy. He's a former first-class adventurer who used to ride with the hero as part of his own party. Meanwhile, Rose strides through the streets, wrestling with the idea that his power is supposed to help people. Then he snaps his gaze to the sky because it's almost time to kick things off. Rose trudges off, crushed by the fear that he can't possibly measure up to the seasoned receptionist, Tara, yet. But then boom, something catches his eye and this strange, off-kilter vibe starts rolling in from nearby. He halts mid-step, whips his head over his shoulder and wonders what's drawing that crowd down the street. I can't shake the feeling something big is happening today, maybe a special event, or that traveling merchants finally showing up in town. As he closes in, he catches a voice saying they'll see if Rose really walks through the door. That familiar voice chimed in again, like she'd already said the same thing a dozen times to them. Rose freezes dead in his tracks when he hears a girl call out that he's being way too. And then another girl jumps in, telling Rose to quit being an adventurer and march straight back to the countryside. Rose looks absolutely cornered, stress crashing down on her as the confrontation tightens like a noose. As the crowd huddles together, whispers erupt, everyone's freaking out, wondering if a real brawl between adventurers is about to explode. Rose presses her ear to the scene as a nearby bystander spills how 3 adventurers started picking on the red-haired kid, and when she tried to stand up for herself, things exploded into full-on chaos. He keeps going, staring them down and saying Rose is being picked on by the whole group, while one of the girls in the trio yells that Rose should have already figured out she caught. Do you even have a single lick of talent? The blonde girl with braids strides forward, stealing the spotlight in a single step. They kept snickering at Rose because after all that time working together, she never even managed to level up a tiny bit. And the other girl rocking that red headband. Van steps in and demands, so you're really still clinging shamelessly to the dream that you'll become an adventurer. Rose steps back, lets it all hit him at once, and the realization crashes in. This is a whole mess he never saw coming. Then it hits him, those three kids aren't just random faces, they're Rose's old party members, and they're definitely not playing nice about this reunion. The blonde girl keeps firing insults, smirking as she tells Rose she's about to spell everything out, because an incompetent fool like her can't figure it out. He blasted the truth to everyone around him. A person with no talent will never. They'll claw their way to the top, no matter how brutal the struggle gets. She ends her rant by blasting that everything Rose does is a total waste, insisting strength is the only currency that counts, leaving Rose staring at his new student, wondering how they're going to survive the pressure. The blonde girl locks eyes with her and just coldly declares, with no room for doubt, that everything she's doing is completely pointless. Rose tears up as memories hit, every reason she's pushing herself, from saving her sick mother to the tiny gusts of leveling up. But the blonde girl digs her heels in, pushing her to pack her bags and get back to the tried to grow wheat for himself like a real peasant. She jeers at Rose, claiming farm work's her way better, and the rest of the trio erupts into laughter at how brutally pitiful the whole scene looks. But then Rose finally pushes out of the crowd, and wham, she drops the bombshell that she's not faking it at all, she's got real talent. Rose's eyes go wide and she screams his name, then he just shrugs, flashes a casual little wave and goes, "Hey," to the whole group. He locks eyes with them and tells them straight up, even if Rose is weak right now, he won't stay silent while they trash all her hard work. Rose blurts out that he never expected to find her stuck in the middle of a mess like this, but she only stares at the ground, drowning in embarrassment. The blonde girl snaps in irritation, demanding who this guy even is, calling her a total useless mess, and before the heat can fade, Rose starts talking, saying he's Rose's. He pauses mid-sentence for a beat, and the room hangs on the edge of everyone's breath, dying to know what his connection to her really is. Rose scratches his head, pressure building in his chest, and he can't stop asking, what connection is he really supposed to have with Rose? While Rose stares back with wide, trembling eyes, he blurts nothing, just mumbles to himself, until the blonde girl snaps and yells in pure frustration. The blonde girl bursts into laughter and says, "I get it now," then claims Rose didn't show up crying on her own, no real party ever gave her the time of day. She keeps charging forward, sneering down at her former teammate and ripping into her like she's utterly pathetic. When she whips her insults at Rose, slamming into him with that "you've got some ass." Thinking about teaming up with a girl like her is seriously bad taste. She even straight up asks if the only reason he sticks around is because he's got a crush on her face. They look genuinely stunned by his attitude, and he points out that the two of them still haven't officially formed a party yet. Then he locks eyes with the blonde girl and snaps, "You're dead wrong," because Rose's got real talent and she's about to get way stronger. The blonde girl just scoffs right in her face, like the eye doesn't even deserve her attention. Rose's idea? He shot it down and reminded everyone that she's been an adventurer for an entire year, yet she's still stuck at the same place. She wraps up the roast and snaps that Rose is basically worthless because she can't even use it. She's trying to lean on magic and skills, but her stats are so awful it's like the game already gave up on her. That blonde girl just keeps talking, like she's not about to stop for anyone, striding up to Rose and asking, "So you're just another talentless, third-rate adventurer?" before he trails off. He couldn't bring himself to see the truth about Rose. She smirks and declares, "That's it, now it finally clicks why two people like us just can't help falling for each other. They'd end up on the very same team." Then she pushes it even harder, daring the idea that Rose got kicked from his old party for being totally useless, until Rose finally looks over like, "Wait, what?" Even so, when Rose tells them to go ahead and trash talk her all they want, she makes it sound like a dare. That blonde girl snaps, shoots him a glare, and demands to know what the heck she's even trying. But Rose finally snaps. She erupts into a full-throttle scream and it hits like a thunderclap because she jabs her finger straight at them, screams that nobody is allowed to insult the person who saved her. No exceptions. She plants her feet, demands an apology, and leaves her former teammates absolutely speechless at the sheer sudden surge of confidence. Mocks her with a sarcastic, "Yes sir, that's obviously fake," while the mood snaps straight into full-on rage, and he demands that Rose tell him who the hell she thinks she is because she's getting way too cocky. She yanks Rose by the collar and snarls that she's got some serious nerve even to talk. That attitude pushed back so hard it left the poor girl trembling with fear. Her face was drenched in sweat and her whole body looked like it had frozen mid-panic. Yeah, she's freaking out after being. Her fingers clamped down on his collar and yanked him in an instant. And then bam, an exclamation mark screams she's completely blindsided. Just as the blonde girl snaps her grip loose, she blurts out that she'll apologize to Rose, then bolts away, leaving Rose frozen in confusion, demanding, "Wait, what do you mean?" The girl makes it crystal clear. If Rose wants that apology, she better say so. She has to go out there and prove Rose's words aren't just talk, because she's the one who has to make it real herself. But she drops that "about a week from now" bombshell and Rose immediately jumps in, demanding to know exactly what she means. She blurts out that a guild promotion exam is coming fast, and her squad is gearing up to take the reins. Staring right at her, she tells Rose that if she can climb to rank 4 too, she'll finally swallow her pride, admit she was wrong, and offer that apology. Rose just stands there staring into space, realizing hitting rank 4 is a massive leap, like graduating from being a complete total beginner. The blonde girl locks eyes with her and snaps that it only counts if she can actually pull off the rank up, because otherwise this wouldn't mean a thing. It was the only shot at proving Rose wasn't just guessing, that she truly had real potential. Things look downright hopeless for Rose. Is trapped right now, cornered in a brutal spot. And the blonde girl isn't making any of it easy. "I made it sound simple. Tell her that if she flunks, she'll have to march up to the middle of the main street and apologize to them right in front of everyone." Rose just stands there, utterly baffled, like she can't even finish the girl refuses to stop. She keeps going, shouting that Rose deserves this for playing tough, even though she's got nothing to back it up. Rose freezes. She can't even scrape together the words to answer, not with that kind of talent watching her. As the other girls burst into laughter and start mocking her, they're already imagining her faceplint into the truth, screaming about how she was wrong. They're going all in on the bullying, but the blonde girl closes in and tells Rose the truth. If she really has what it takes, she has to earn it with real results in the exam, and you can practically see Rose's sweat explode under the pressure. And the girl keeps needling her, demanding to know if little Rose is so terrified she can't even bring herself to try the promotion test. She's trying to rattle her and basically dares her to step up if she really wants that apology so bad. Rose is shaking like she's about to snap in half, but then Rose steps in, grins wide, and plants his hands on her shoulders like he's claiming the moment, and he tells them he's totally on board with that plan. Rose looks up, stunned out of her mind. Rose makes it official on the spot. She announces she'll take that promotion exam exactly 1 week from today, and everyone just, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And Rose ends it by telling the girl, "Once I crack rank 4, I'm going to." She'll have to swallow her pride, admit she was wrong, and finally hand them the apology they've been hunting for. Rose stays totally calm as he doubles down on the bet, then he declares, "If I don't land this promotion, we'll both report it formally." That blonde girl snaps and demands, "Are you really insane? Do you honestly think someone as useless as Rose could ever climb to rank 4? Rose doesn't hesitate for a second. She tells him she's not ready yet, but if she can level up before the deadline, it's totally within reach. The girl can't process it. She snaps back at him that they've only got 1 week left before the test kicks off. And Rose just stares at her like she owns the moment, grinning with absolute confidence as a whole week is more than enough time to pull off exactly what he's been plotting. The blonde girl just brushes it off with a laugh, then grins and says she can't wait to see Rose's face when they tank the exam. She marches off with her crew, shouting over her shoulder at Rose to make sure he doesn't even think about bolting and breaking their promise. The girls head out, already planning to return in a week to see the disaster Rose just warned them about. and she tells them to hold on for a sec. The girl stops him cold and asks what he wants right now, so Rose shoots back that this exam isn't meant to turn into a huge fight between them. He ends it by sincerely wishing them luck on their own exams, and the three of them are left utterly baffled. Like, why is he being so kind? Frigga barks out one final insult from far off. She throws words at them. Enjoy that confidence while you still have it, and Rose just shrugs it off and keeps going. And tells Rose, come on, let's get moving, pushing her to act before it's too late. As they push deeper into the woods, Rose shoots a guilty look and blurts out a frantic. Guys corner Rose and tell her he feels awful for saying yes to that insane promotion bet, without even stopping to ask what she wanted. Rose's cheeks flare as she blurts that he shouldn't stress, because it was her drama that pulled him into all this in the first place. Rose scratches the back of his head and admits he just snapped, then realizes a second too late that he fell for some cheap taunt hook, line, and sinker. Clenches her fists and tells him that even if he'd never said a word, she was on the edge of snapping. And she says the same thing herself. So Rose leans in and asks if those girls were totally her old party members, because their intensity was unmistakable. Rose drops her gaze, checks it, and confirms, yeah, they really were. She leans in and tells you the blonde girl is the one who sets you free. Asia runs the show in that group, and when they first set off together, everyone's skills were basically even, no one had the clear edge. But no matter how time kept marching, Rose just couldn't shake the feeling that she was stuck, getting no better, not even a little. She flat out admits Frigga despised how painfully slow she was to get better. Rose just absorbs the shock, so that girl from earlier really was the leader all along. Rose's shoulders slump hard as he confesses he got booted from the party after barely a minute, which instantly catches Rose off guard, and she blurts that 1 month is a wildly short amount of time. Rose snaps her gaze away and tells her friend that ever since that incident, those girls have been mocking her non-stop every time they run into each other. And Rose finally pieces it together, because he really did run into that same group on his way to meet her earlier that morning. He glances sideways, and just like that, a new thought snaps into place, slamming him with a sudden memory. The rumors he overheard from nearby mouths, everyone swore the group had picked. He picked a fight with Rose, and the moment she talked back, it detonated into a full-on brawl. Rose can't sit still, she fidgets with her. Her fingers fidget as embarrassment floods her face, and she frantically searches for the right words to explain herself. And she leans in and tells him it all began the moment the leader said there was. Rose faced one brutal truth: she could never ever save her cursed mother. He stared down with a heavy sigh, saying it felt like they were spitting on Rose's power, like everything he did for her the day before meant nothing. And as Rose listens, she finally snaps. She can't stomach the way they're talking, the frustration hits her too hard. Rose finally catches up to Rose and blurts out that she couldn't thank her enough for standing up to those girls for him, and Rose only answers with a bashful, shy grin. Letting him wrap up his grin, seeing her blow up and bullying Frigga into apologizing just lit him up. He says that even if she can't stand the girl, watching her step up and fight back like that is honestly badass. Which rockets Rose into a full blushing meltdown as she huffs, blurting that it's so yeah, when someone dares to insult her benefactor, her anger doesn't stand a chance. Her face stays blazing red, and for a brief second her expression goes still, like she's caught on the edge of a decision. To pop it back up and raise it in the conversation, before she finally blurts out, wait, can I really reach rank 4 in just 1 week? Frigga was non-stop talking about it. Rose doesn't beat around the bush. She tells him to his face that she honestly feels it might be a bit too soon for her. He leaves her completely stunned for a beat, then he shoots back, I act. He's thinking this is the perfect shot, like fate just handed him an opening. He tells her straight up, if she wants that goal, she'll have to power through the one thing standing in her way. And at some point, the promotion exam finally came for him. And since she already blew up the town earlier, everyone's clocked her face, and honestly, that makes things way easier for her now. Rose tells everyone that tons of eyes will be on her, all waiting to see if she really powers up and gets stronger. And if she crushes this exam and proves she's got what it takes, everyone's attitude will flip, and she might even get a party invite to celebrate. He won't stop, he keeps talking, telling her the number of jobs she can grab is gonna skyrocket once that. And finally, once he can scrape together a Cursebreaker's fee, the impossible might turn into something real. He tells her drop it, forget it ever happened. that fit in with the other girls for now because if he's going to break her mother's curse at all, this is the absolute fastest way to make it happen. The road ahead is brutal, but he's convinced this is the perfect goal for her to chase. He locks eyes with her and bluntly fires the question, does she really think she can pull it off? Rose doesn't even blink for a second. He shot back that she absolutely could. Rose grabs your shoulder and tells you not to rush things as you two push deeper into the woods to kick off your training. Rose tells Rose to lock in, track every move her opponent makes, and then she can. She times her move to perfection. Then the horned rabbit explodes forward and Rose screams at her to go for it right now. Right now, Rose hurls her reply, fires off the shot, and that's when her unstoppable push for the promotion exam officially kicks off. 5 days into her training, and now she's squaring up against a deadly bird known as Iron Feather. A bird streaks through the air like a bullet, yet Rose keeps her gaze pinned on it while it kicks into a ruthless high-speed dive. She sees it barreling straight for her, and she knows it's coming, but she also knows that once she picks her route, that bird can't bend it, so she's forced to wait, eyes sharp, for the exact second she can swerve and dodge. And he shouts that she's gunning for the landing zone. Then she crashes her blade down with everything she's got. She's drenched in sweat, but she doesn't stop for even a second. She keeps going. Complete. He was laser-focused on the fight, like nothing else in the world mattered. Until a voice suddenly shouts her name, and Rose jerks her gaze off the map to see who just showed up. Rose just freezes on the spot, eyes shut tight, completely stunned by what he's just heard. Rose freezes in place, eyes blazing wide like she just saw a ghost. She's in total disbelief, swearing this can't be real, especially with the big exam hitting in just 2 days. She crumples onto her knees in the dirt, breathless, and then demands to know why they can't level up anymore. And you can feel it, both of them are starting to crack, their hopes slipping fast in this whole mess. At first, everything felt perfect. Her level rocketed from 3 to 7 in the blink of an eye. But out in the woods, she's huffing and complaining that in 5 days she only snagged 2 levels. She curls up with her head in her knees and blurts out, "Is my calling really the problem?" Leaving Rose to wonder. Just because her class is different doesn't mean she can stop growing. Heat hits his skin, then panic sparks as sweat starts pouring and the realization finally lands. Realizing her progress is dragging way slower than it ever should. Rose sits there, eyes locked on their progress like she's counting every step toward the finish. Watching them rack up monster kills day after day, while his support skills keep the whole operation standing. But since Rose hit level 9, she hasn't leveled up even once in 3 whole days, and that's seriously freaking her out. He watches her and can't help thinking she's absolutely crushing it. She soaks up every single thing he teaches, her technique looks surprisingly sharp, and no matter what, she never ever quits. And she's already wiped out way more beasts than he ever thought she could take on. But as Rose watches her level stay frozen, nervousness starts creeping into her gut. A cold sweat bursts out of him as the truth hits. This entire situation blew up out of nowhere. It's like she slammed face first into a giant wall just before level 10. One that's keeping her from learning any new skills, or improving her math at all. Their magic surges, but their stats barely budge. Her status window flashes that she's still stuck at level 9, an apprentice warrior. With F-rank stats and everything, no exceptions. Rose stares down at the status paper, cursing the fact that she doesn't have a single usable skill or even one solid high stat. Because then he'd finally be able to teach her how to take down a whole asterisk range of monsters. But he's completely stumped. He's never seen a vocation like this in his life, and the idea of an apprentice warrior is totally foreign to him. He panics instantly, terrified that her powers might get trapped at a beginner level forever, just because of that blasted name. So he just freezes in place, staring down the stats in total silence, while Rose slumps over in the grass like all the fight just drained out of her. He keeps telling himself that a job like that can't possibly be real, but that nagging gut feeling won't let go. Even if she keeps leveling up and getting stronger, he's basically out of time to fix what's going wrong. He snaps his gaze away, helplessly wondering what's next. Because if she somehow hits level 10 today, the whole world might just flip. It's crystal clear to him Rose is running on fumes, because every single day she's been crushing herself past her breaking point. Leaving Rose slumped there, staring at the ceiling, begging the universe for his next move as Rose finally drags himself back up. Rose yells out to her, looking completely unrecognizable as she does. Something heavy is weighing on his mind, pressing down on every thought. But Rose snaps in, asking if he knows any other spots where she can hunt down new monsters, and he just freezes, staring back like he can't believe her energy. As she tells him she's already hunted through almost every magical beast in this whole area. She pushes them to vanish to a brand new spot, dead serious, craving those first kill bonuses and the divine essence they bring like a prize. Rose stares down, proud that she's still cooking up ideas even when everything feels hopeless, until he shuts it down and tells her that plan won't work. Since there weren't any monsters left nearby that she could take on safely, and the trip to a new zone would chew up way too much time. Rose locks eyes with him and dares to ask what would happen if they fought something that wasn't safe. Then the question hits and Rose goes utterly speechless. But she doesn't stop, she keeps pushing him to remember this. If he ever thinks she's in real danger, don't hesitate, ditch her and save himself. Rose flails his hands in total panic, swearing to her there's absolutely no way he'd ever leave her hanging like that. So Rose finally relents, admitting she's asking for way too much and that avoiding risks is the smartest play. Rose locks eyes with him and yep, she gets it. He's only worried about her safety, but she reminds him they only collided in the first place because she was ready to gamble everything against that flare Bambi. And then she hits him with the truth. She has to keep pushing herself, no excuses, if she ever wants to get truly stronger. Her determination hits, and a tiny smile sneaks onto Rose's face. Suddenly, Rose slaps both of his own cheeks with full force to snap himself back to reality, only to make himself jump in shock. He shrugs it off and admits it. He's the one who lacked the guts, especially when their endgame is already this reckless. Then he stares at her with razor-sharp focus and realizes that playing it safe was nothing but pure naivety. So he finally gives her a chance, turns his back on the usual plan, and goes hunting for a whole new kind of magic beast. Rose leans in and tells him he's already locked onto his target, then declares he's fully ready once the signal hits. They're moving. They step into the forest side by side, and Rose wastes no time asking what they're hunting. He grins and swears he'll spill every detail on the walk. Rose slams to a stop the second they hit the forest's edge. She spots the forest's colors shifting, points out the leaves and calls Rose out. Tell me you know what they're saying. Rose says once we cross that line we're stepping into monster territory and it'll crush any regular rookie in seconds. Rose's face tightens with worry as she remembers the guild's harsh warning, never, ever step beyond these yellow leaves. Rose slumps against a tree and recalls the time he'd hear non-stop reports, young adventurers vanishing and getting wiped out deep in these woods. He swears the guild's rules have been saving lives lately, but Rose just freezes in place, totally freaked out by the place's dark history. She shoots the question if their mark is truly lurking in a place this deadly, and Rose nods like, yeah, right there, that's exactly where we're going. He shoots her a wink, daring her to trust him, because even in a place this terrifying, some monsters are beatable if she keeps her head and they play it smart. Rose flashes a thumbs up, tells her the beast they're hunting doesn't need any fancy tricks, then it absolutely rains down divine essence. Reeling from the news, I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could something that easy, that rewarding, and that monstrous possibly be real? Rose raises one finger and at last, boom, he reveals the name of their target. The Emperor Ant, where a single ant becomes a living nightmare. He describes it as a towering beast, taller than any person, so tall it leaves Rose speechless. She looks totally lost, so he blurts out, do you even know what a normal ant is? And she says she knows those tiny bugs, so he tells her, picture one of them but massive like giant. While they march, Rose slaps a stick into the dirt and starts scratching out a diagram, muttering as she notes. He lays it out fast, two main threats. First, that monster's brutal, heavy mandibles. If those jaws clamp onto her, they'll tear straight through her armor like paper. Since his body's too hard to land a clean hit on, he tells her. He tells her to strike the neck joints and the legs, because those spots are thin, soft, and easy to break. She can actually slice through them, so he decides the neck is the top target, but crippling its legs first is the smarter move to stop it from moving at all. Rose starts rambling mid-fight, yelling for you to spot the acid and the mandibles, then hit the leg and jaw joints at the same time, because yeah, it's a ton to process. He catches his own sweating and realizes he probably just talked her ear off with all that technical stuff, so he tries to simplify it. He tells her the whole goal is simple. Track the monster's moves, dodge every swing it throws, then keep pounding those joints until it drops. He swears to her that if she stays locked on that plan and leans on her support magic, the win's already hers, making. Rose didn't just follow along, she patted her chest and said she gets it, she's pretty sure she can handle it, and when she spots that lingering doubt in her face, he's about. He tells her, "I've been watching you train for 5 straight days." Then he leans in and says she's not weak at all, she just needs to trust herself, and that's when. Which really fires her up. She clenches her fist, then declares that if he believes in her this hard, she's going to pour out every single ounce of herself. As they keep pushing deeper into the woods, it suddenly hits her, something clicks in her head and she realizes it. And she snaps forward in the room, no hesitation. Then she finally admits. He has to admit, those emperor ants sound like straight-up brutal magical beasts, but she can't wrap her head around it. Why is everyone keeping their distance for so long? In her mind, they don't even sound dangerous enough to explain all this fear. Rose spots Rose hesitating, then leans in and asks if something else is weighing on her mind as they head into. He's praising her for spotting every little detail, telling her she did great, and that staying calm is the real win, but now they're charging straight into the mission's real heart. Rose steps in and starts explaining everything. These emperor ants are straight-up magical beasts, packed into massive colonies that nest inside dark caves, and then he drops the real bombshell. Once the fight kicks off, about 30 soldier ants will spill out from every corner of the nest to defend the leader. Rose gets totally freaked out. She blurts 30 with sheer disbelief, like she can't believe her eyes. So Rose shoots in to calm her down, but when he promises he'll wipe out every last one of those extra ants himself so she can lock onto the emperor ant, Rose's patience snaps even harder. She can't even process how he plans to take on 30 monsters all at once. And she shoots him a shaky question, "Are you really gonna be okay doing that?" Rose doesn't look worried at all, but yeah, he admits it sounds effortless, yet an emperor ant is no joke, and you usually need a whole crew of rank 3 adventurers to put one down safely. Rose finally admits the only reason he hesitated was pure fear. He worried he'd fail and leave Rose trapped in danger. And when he stares at her with fresh fire in his eyes, he finally blurts it out. He's made up his mind too. He fires off this massive promise: 0 soldier ants will ever come close to her, and it totally blindsides Rose. Rose grins and tells him that watching how determined she is hits him like a spark. He feels like he has to go all out, and right as they're about to move, he abruptly slams on the brakes and tells Rose, "Wait, there's one more thing I forgot to mention." He brings up what she said earlier, just run away and ditch her if things get too dangerous. But then he snaps into a serious mood and tells her she can't say that to him ever. Rose asks her how she'd feel if the roles were flipped, and he basically tells her to just leave him. Leave him behind to rot, and that single question. That straight up wipes the excitement off her face. He's like, yeah, she wouldn't even have a clue what to do if that ever happened. So the two of them keep moving, and he keeps laying into her, telling her not to toss words like that around so carelessly. Rose keeps hitting the same point from earlier. She insists that running away is only for when there's no other option left, but even when a party is one step from getting wiped out, that can't be the point, because the real reason is this. The whole reason you train, grind, and prepare is to make sure you never get pushed into that kind of desperate corner again. He locks eyes with her and says, training isn't just for getting stronger, it's for protecting the people you love. As Rose listens in shock, he grins and tells her, someday you'll throw your own party, so don't forget it. The two of them push deeper and deeper into the forest, until Rose finally snaps to it and realizes they're closing in on the spot. He crouches and points at the dirt clumps on the ground, saying those dirt balls are just soldier ants tearing them up as they expand their nest. Rose just stands there, locked on the monster's evidence nearby, saying nothing at all. Rose catches her look and asks if she's getting nervous. Instant panic hits. She jumps and blurts a shaky, "Why yes." He tells her to trust him, swearing she'll be fine. She nods along, but then admits she's been spiraling with overthinking. Rose starts panicking over the one thing he'd truly do if he ever faced real danger, because if the world told him save yourself, he'd run without hesitation. He can't stop asking himself what he'd do if it ever got that bad, and he's terrified of how he'd react. But it's not only her, he's already mapping out every future party member he might team up with down the road. He tells himself to stay calm because when the people he cares about get slammed by trouble, he has to be ready and just like that, they burst through the trees and hit their destination deep in the woods. Rose jogs up to the huge cave entrance and blurts that it's an emperor ant nest, then practically screams that the real challenge is finally here. They're staring into the dark mouth of the nest and he's double-checking, sure as anything, this is the place. Just as they're about to take another step, Rose slams the brakes, turns to her, and shouts that there's one thing they have to do before they go in. He beckons her over and she slides closer in a flash, desperate to catch every word he's about to drop. As she blurts, "What's going on?" he snaps, "Stay right there, don't move, I need 1 second." Rose slams a button of destiny and unleashes a spell called. Rose tries to sharpen her sight with it all, then a sudden flash blinds her and catches her completely off guard. And she stands there utterly lost, spinning her head in confusion while Rose stares at the cave entrance, hunting for any sign that things have changed. So far, nothing looks different. He snaps, "Go on, check inside the cave right now." Rose glares into the dark, and the moment her magic finally kicks in, her eyes blow wide with pure shock. She panics instantly and screams that she can see crystal clear inside the cave. Rose stays razor calm, explaining that it's just a basic support move. A spell that lets you see through darkness and bad times, like a lifeline and the men who chase it. Someone says they can finally roam the whole place now, no excuses, no restrictions, nothing stopping them anymore. Needing to haul torches. Rose is practically bouncing with joy, and it's got Rose wondering, just how powerful is this kind of magic anyway? She tells him this is a massive deal, because never having to deal with those flickering flames and the weird stuff is a game changer. And those weird shadows, they totally change everything. She's finally got both hands free, and the relief hits her like a wave. As they charge straight into the nest, Rose feels downright unstoppable right now, gloating that they finally seized the upper hand. He's basically saying, trying to deal with an entire swarm of ants is pure nightmare fuel, especially when you're stuck in the middle clutching a torch. That's the exact reason missions like these turn into an absolute nightmare for most people. Rose blurted, "Thank goodness," because she's way too lousy with a torch too. Then she shouted her name. Making her jump, she blurts out, "Wait, did you really say ants?" Rose grins and confirms, "Yep, we're basically at the source." He orders her to stay razor sharp and keep her eyes peeled as they push through the last stretch of the passage. Rose breaks the news that the trail should spill out into a huge plaza any second, throwing her off guard when it sounds almost too convenient. He leans in and warns her, those monsters inside aren't playing. They ambush any adventurer foolish enough to stumble into their territory. So he clocks the strained ant running the nest and yeah, it's pretty clear they're waiting for the real master to show up. Standing in that plaza, alone and abandoned, with nothing around it but silence, Rose lays out the plan and promises, "I'll take care of every soldier ant that comes," so she can lock in on the boss. Then she gives that confident nod, ready to move. A blood-curdling scream suddenly detonates from deep inside the cave, ripping through the silence and knocking every single person off guard as Rose blurts out, "Was that a human voice?" And the moment the question leaves her, Rose can't stop wondering, what if another adventurer is trapped out there somewhere, right in the middle of the same nightmare? Right in the middle of the fight, both of them break into a full sprint toward the blazing light waiting at the end of the path. They try to peek at what's happening. Then the second they hit the exit, both of them snap still, stunned out of their minds. He stared down into a colossal underground plaza, and it was packed tight with a carpet of crawling ants. Towering over the thousands of smaller bugs, a handful of giant emperor ants loom over the swarm like living war machines. Rose's hands tremble as she stares at him, looking way too nervous, and blurts out a question, asking, if those huge ones are really the emperors he was talking about, then that changes everything. Rose watches, stunned, because there are way too many of them, and that's exactly when she decides to push forward. He doesn't answer her right away. He just stands there, drenched in sweat, staring at the horde below like, what the hell is even happening? Rose finally snaps into the conversation and explains that emperor ants usually march out front and lead their own. Armies clash and still they never unite as one. Rose suddenly yanks Rose in place and starts freaking out, shouting at him to look up. He lifts his head but nothing clicks. He doesn't catch on. No, he can't. Right when a gigantic ant monster crashes down from the ceiling, nearly squashing them as it falls onto them. They both lose it completely. Rose squints at it, jaw dropping. This thing is way bigger than an emperor ant, and Rose just stands there staring at it. The giant creature finally locks onto what they're staring at, a queen ant, and Rose's mind goes completely blank because she's never even heard of something like that. He tells you this is the top-tier ant monster alive, an absolute apex species like nothing else. He's basically the emperor's boss, commanding the entire army from the highest peak. Like, how is anyone even supposed to wrap their head around that? Leave a monster that dangerous in a place like this, and then, right when you think it's over, a scream rips through the air and cuts the plaza. Rose realizes this training has spiraled way past control when another desperate cry for help cuts through the air. He grabs Rose out of her trance and shoves her toward the loud commotion, then he jabs his finger straight at the plaza's heart. Two adventurers get pinned in the heart of a gigantic swarm, and they fight tooth and nail just to keep their ground. The leader in the trap snaps at his crew to stay locked in, but one of them is already on the ground, and with only 3 left and one bleeding badly, things are turning grim fast. So Rose realizes he can't just sit there and overthink. He has to move right now, sprinting straight into the next step, leading, forcing him to spin around and shout at Rose to get back to the hallway, safe and sound. He tells her the training's officially done, then he steps in to help them himself. Then it hits them out of nowhere and Rose freezes, completely blindsided. She starts to speak, "I'll go with you," as the words hang in the air. She slams on the brakes mid-sentence. She goes stone still for a beat, eyes dropping as the truth lands. She might what? "You'll end up in the way, right when everything's about to go down." As he tilts back, Rose locks eyes with him and tells him everything. She's actually going to back out and wait exactly like he asked, leaving him there. Rushing out, they left Rose thinking she'd finally earned it. She read the room, knew her limits, and that was pure street-smart intelligence. He leans in and promises her he'll bring that party back, and tells her she has to help the injured the moment they arrive. And once they're all finally back together, they're marching out of there, each and everyone in one piece. Rose gives Rose one last instruction: scream as loud as you can if anything happens. And just like that, ants started crawling in near her, and he vows to sprint back the instant he hears her calling for help. Hears it, so Rose nods hard and tells him, "I get it." To dive headfirst into the chaos, Rose casts. He fires off a few boost spells on himself, cranking his strength and agility through the roof. Then he explodes into motion, daggers already drawn, blasting down the tunnel so fast he turns into a blur, leaving Rose stranded in his wake. He lunged in one insane jump, sword straight over the ants' front line, and that move is just wild. And it drops him straight into the center of them. He slices through multiple monsters before they even get the chance to react. The ants just freeze there staring. They look totally stunned, like they can't even pin down where the attacks are landing from. Rose never slows for a heartbeat. She rips straight through the pack with surgical strikes, and every swing leaves only monster parts in her wake. With the trapped party in his sights, the main guy is fighting for his life, ranting and cursing, blaming the ants for acting like such a menace. But then he whips his gaze through the swarm and spots someone locked in a fight, and he can't just stand there. He can't believe it and blurts, "Wait, did someone actually come to save us?" Rose blasts out, "Stay together," and regroup, and right then he steps up, grabs the reins, and takes charge as he screams that he'll hack out a path through the passageway so they can get through. Rose screams at the trapped group to hang on tight until he reaches them, and the leader shouts back, "You're the one who saves lives." Rose tears through an ant as Rose watches him from the tunnel mouth. She's totally spellbound, staring in awe while silently thinking, "Yeah, I'm seriously that amazing." As the fight unfolded in front of me, I couldn't look away. Rose already knew she was strong, but seeing it with her own eyes hit different. It was a whole other level. Rose finally gets it. She wasn't bluffing about taking on 30 ants and saving the whole party. It wasn't just talk or blind overconfidence. She straight up had the power to prove it. Rose's cheeks explode into a deep blush as she spirals, wishing she could be just like her hero, but then she jolts back to reality and realizes she has to stay. Keep your eyes locked on the ants and track every single move they make. Rose watches from the side, completely stunned as it finally clicks. Rose can actually pull this off. Rose locks in, replaying in his head how it's been ages since he's had to fight at full power. Then it hits. But turns out he's not rusty one bit. He slides through. They rushed in with zero hesitation, and the guy he's rescuing just freezes in shock, staring as Rose rips through the ants like they're nothing at all. This bald adventurer is drenched in sweat, locked onto the brawl and freaking out like, who the hell is this guy? His partner snaps that they're clueless, but there's no time to wonder, so they have to gamble everything on him right now. Rose keeps the heat on and soon the ants drop the party like it's nothing, then fixate on him, all eyes on Rose. He's riding high, fully convinced that if things keep going like this, he'll save everyone for sure, yet he knew that if he'd shown up even a second later, the whole group would have gone down in flames. He glances back and admits it. Rose's sheer drive to save her friends is what made this rescue possible. Rose rockets straight ahead and, diving straight into the chaos, he hacked through the swarm, racing toward the trapped guys. Rose peers from the edge and realizes the ants' formation is crumbling fast now that she stepped right into the middle of it. He hurls the words to the group. If they can just regroup, they might actually pull off a real stand and hold these things back. The bald adventurer locks onto. He blares the alarm and screams for everyone to get out of the way, while the younger guy just stands there, frozen in pure shock. The leader keeps yelling orders to speed up, but the younger kid is scrambling just to match the insane pace. Right when they start to bolt, a monstrous ant explodes from the dark and lunges straight at them, catching them off guard, shattering the bald guy's defenses and catching him totally off guard. Rose spots the danger and groans through clenched teeth as he shoves himself to keep moving, to go even faster than before because right before the ant's jaws could clamp down on him, he barely manages to slam into the guy and shove him out of the way. It's a total nail-biter. Rose locks eyes with the bug's huge stare for one heartbeat, and then he slams in a crushing kick, launches the giant ant skidding backward, and somehow keeps his death grip on the adventurer the entire time. A colossal blast tore the sky open, shaking everything to the bone. An explosion slams the cave walls and the bald adventurer braces hard, gripping the road like it's the only thing keeping him upright, so they don't get thrown aside and tossed away. Rose gets slammed by the shockwave, her face frozen in total stunned disbelief as the blast slams him so hard it steals his breath and Rose Vermilion keeps her eyes locked on the whole chaos from far away. She clamped her hand over her mouth in pure terror, staring at the wreckage like it was the end of the world because he slammed her against the wall. Shaking hard, he couldn't even wrap his head around how things spiraled out of control so fast. He crashes onto the ground, then snaps his head over. Rose is sprawled face down, completely still. He blurted, "Are you okay?" Rose can barely get words out. He's frantic, and he keeps trying to apologize for how fast he's been pushing forward. But his voice wavered, fizzled out, and trailed off into nothing while he slumps on the floor, panic creeping in as he realizes this nightmare is far worse than he ever imagined. He stares at his hand and it's drenched in blood. Then the world lurches, his head starts spinning, and the voices around him vanish into nothing. He tries to process just how brutal that injury really is, convinced he must have slammed his head hard when he went down. The other adventurer lunges to help him up, but no matter how Rose screams at himself to get back on his feet, his body refuses to budge. Rose is totally stunned. Blood streams down his face and he can barely squeeze out a sound. He yells that he can't take it anymore as ants swarm over him, and the armored guy snarls at him to hang in there. The guy pleads for him to snap out of it, even as Rose stays pinned flat on the floor, face down, bleeding out. Rose can't stop thinking this is the absolute worst case. She never once pictured things spiraling this far out of control. He spots the ants crowding in and it hits him. His friends are just as wrecked as he is, like hope just got snuffed out. He slams onto the ground, fists clenched in pure frustration, thinking that if he just had more power, he could have stopped this whole disaster before it ever started. Suddenly, a voice yells his name from far away. His eyes snap wide the moment he realizes who it is. The only thing he can hear is her voice and the pounding of her feet. Then panic hits as he wonders if she's really running straight to him. Rose Vermilion comes barreling in, screaming his name, and when he sees her, the realization hits. He's got unfinished work to crush. So he starts wondering, can I even talk? And drills one thought into his head. He has to find his voice and make it work no matter what. Rose gets pinned to the ground, strains for breath, and screams for Rose to stay back, because she can't let herself get pulled into this chaos. He's screaming for her to run, but Rose just freezes in place, staring back with this dead, stunned blank look on her face. Rose leans in and tells her, "You have to slam the door on everything and just run." because she knows that's the exact move he's not supposed to make. He shouts at her that the ants are already racing straight for her and she better move fast, yet she's still totally stuck, frozen in place. Rose yells her name one last time, convinced they've finally reached that terrifying point where there's nothing left they can do. He screams at the top of his lungs, pounding the truth into her. She's the one who's meant to save her mom. Rose just stands there, dead quiet, completely overwhelmed by everything crashing down around her, like she can't even breathe. Everything around her was exploding into motion. Rose's voice screams in her ears, "Run for your mother's sake," while the ants keep surging over the injured crew. She scrambles for the right words, but her whole body is trembling. Nothing comes out except a few shaky bits. Costoma fires off, "Can I even fight?" And Rose can only spit back the truth. He's nothing but a low-rank rookie, dead stuck where he stands. Rose is still pinned to the ground, bleeding out, but he pleads with Rose to listen, because he knows she's smart enough to see the truth. This is a losing battle. Costoma screams at the top of his lungs for her to sprint back to the guild. And he barges in to report everything. He's screaming that she has to tell them the queen ant is here, and that's when Rose froze in total shock the moment the news hit. Costoma keeps yelling at the top of his lungs, insisting they need reinforcements right now. Specifically rank 2 or more adventurers, or else they're all getting erased right here and now. Costoma swears he'll stall them for a bit and make sure Rose stays safe. But Rose just stares at him, stunned. Then he begs her with shaking urgency, insisting she's the only one who can make it out. And finally it clicks. She snaps into motion and bolts into a full sprint, screaming that she'll be back for them for sure. The rest of the party fights to keep their line intact, and Costoma screams that he's counting on her while Rose vanishes into the tunnel's blackness, sprinting for the exit as the monsters slam in from behind her. Rose stood there watching Rose sprint into the tunnel, her disappearing fast while his eyes stayed locked on her, like he could keep her from vanishing. Costoma and the other guy watch her move, and as soon as she walks away, the guy thanks her for running off to get help, while Costoma just waves him off, telling him, "Don't worry about it, seriously." He's locked in on what's coming next, right in the middle of the fight ahead, but the other guy looks absolutely wrecked, and he straight up admits he never meant to stir up this much chaos for everyone. Costoma orders Rose to stay right where he is and promises he'll guard him all the way to the very end, yet Rose only lets out a shaky, weak laugh, telling Costoma he can count on him, but deep down doubt gnaws at him, because he's terrified he won't be able to keep his promise to Rose. He forces himself forward, even though it crushes him inside, replaying every ounce of pain he's handed her and hating what he's done. But then he slams the brakes on his own words, because he knows apologizing is the one sin he can't afford, and still he can't shake the gut punch feeling. What a total loser. He swaggered like he owned the world, and now he's lying face down in the dirt. His body can barely move. He squeezes out just one more whisper of her name as everything spirals into something even worse. The red-haired girl bursts out of the dark cave, sprinting hard as her breath hammers, and guilt crashes in because she's leaving them behind. She bursts out of it and swears she's finally in the clear, so now it's time to sprint back to town. Then she freezes, stares at the trees and that endless path ahead, so quiet the moment hits and reality finally starts to sink in. She tells herself, just wait a second, because then it hits her how many hours she already spent getting to this cave. She starts crunching numbers. If she can trek all the way back to town, grab help from the guild, then make it back again, this is gonna drag on forever, so she can't stop wondering what's happening to Rose and the others while she's stuck on the road. She drops to her knees the second the truth slams into her. Every word was a lie, and they only fed her those stories to make sure she'd break free. She feels like a total idiot, like if she just paused for a second and actually thought, she would have known better. She clamps a hand over her face and swears to herself she has to turn back, because walking away from something like this feels downright wrong. She knows she might not be strong enough to save Rose, and Rose doesn't even want her there, but she can't sit back and watch them die. Rose Vermilion crumples to her knees, sobbing hard as the truth hits. she can't save her mother by herself, and even if she somehow managed, it still wouldn't feel. It finally hits her, she snaps back to reality, sprints home and kicks the door wide open while shouting, "Mother!" Who jerks upright in her bed, stunned, as Rose Vermilion screams that she finally found a curse breaker and it all felt like it was about to burst into something, like the world was shouting F right before it broke. She's fine now, but her mother is totally baffled. How did a kid like her pull in that much money? So Rose Vermilion flashes a brave grin and straight-up lies, saying she's gotten way stronger and grinding quests nonstop. Her mom grins and tells her, "Turns out Rose, such a sweet soul, has been the one caring for you this whole time." And just when she asks where that person is so she can thank them, Rose Vermilion suddenly goes ice cold and completely freezes in place. She tries to push the words out, but when her mind drifts to what she left behind, her voice cracks and betrays her. The terrifying truth finally hit her. Her teacher had sacrificed her. She shoved herself into the sacrifice, anything to make sure she could break free from that monster. She starts trembling, whispering to herself again and again that she can't let it end like this, none of it is right. Rose Vermilion crumples to the floor, shrieking at the top of her lungs as everything hits this. But that's the future she never, ever dreamed of for herself. But deep down, she finally comes clean. She's known the truth all along. The truth about her situation this whole time. It's the same answer she'd been asking herself, back when this whole thing felt like a lifetime ago. Back when she wondered what she'd do if Rose was ever in real danger, and told herself to run. Now there's no doubt. She's charging straight through this chaos and won't stop until her teacher is saved, no matter what it takes. Rose Vermilion has finally decided it's her turn. She's stepping up to take control, just like she watched Rose do a moment ago. Thinking about how anyone would feel the same fire in their chest, just wanting to prove something, show it, no matter what. Leap in and rescue your friend the second trouble hits. She's always pictured herself as that kind of hero adventurer, one who doesn't just chase glory but actually steps in to protect people, and she starts to wonder if someone as weak as her even has a shot. And then she stops. She grinds to a stop, totally stunned, then looks up and spots Rose standing right in front of her. She realizes she's right, and because of that, instead of sitting around and crying, she digs in her heels, steadies herself and gets ready because the fight is getting brutal. The sword itself even snaps clean in half. Half-Costoma freaks out when his sword snaps in half, and he starts struggling to keep control. Rose tells him to think smart, use his head or even his shoulders, while he shrugs and insists his armor makes him strong enough to smash those soldier ants to pieces. But the moment Rose asks about the Emperor, someone snaps back, "It can't be done," and right when the bleeding starts to slow. Even with his head finally clearing, his body just won't budge. Rose swivels toward her student and blurts, "I'm sorry, I dragged you into this mess and I shouldn't have." But Rose shuts him down on the spot, cutting him off and insisting that's not what's going on at all. Rose stares at the ground, blood pouring from his face, beating himself up, rage and guilt screaming that he should have been the one protecting them, and how. Now this disaster is on him, lock, stock and blade. He's got to own every last bit of it. But right then, a ferocious yell tears through the cave. Rose barrels back into the chaos with every ounce of strength she has. She rockets past the struggling knights and barrels straight into the wall of ants. So fast she turns into a blur, then she springs back right in front and makes Rose snap completely. She blurts her name in total shock, while the other knight screams for the little lady to stop. The guys in the back are completely lost, like, is she the backup they've been waiting for? But then it hits them, there's just no way help could have sprinted here that fast. And Rose just freezes there, terrified out of his mind, listening to the chaos roaring all around him while he watches his student march straight into a suicide mission. Rose isn't hearing a word they say, she just keeps chanting her teacher's words again and again, telling herself to track every move and dodge right on time, like this is how you survive, even. It brings her straight to the next move. She steadies her breath, locks in her aim on the joints, and plans to smash them one by one until she keeps circling that monster, dancing just out of reach. She kept her eyes locked on the timing, holding her breath until the perfect opening finally screamed for a strike. She spots her opening right on the edge of disaster. Now she's ready to strike. She whips the hit with every ounce of strength, screaming that she's going straight for the joints, and that this ends right now. Stands there frozen in shock, replaying his own words about watching closely and dodging over and over. and he just can. I can't believe his eyes. He snaps into a scream and shouts out too. He turned to Rose and demanded to know why on earth she'd even think about coming back to this absolute wreck. But Rose refuses to back down. She doesn't back down, she snaps back that it was her teacher who told her to watch every move and slam the joints right where it hurts, and as the ants swarm her, she clenches her jaw and tells herself, just hold to these 2 rules and I can actually win. Rose watches from the dirt, staring at the scene and thinking, man, my advice is gonna change everything. It only kicks in when he's throwing out support magic, then he starts to blurt something else. But Rose snaps his words in half by screaming that she will not let a single person get sacrificed for her. She barrels forward, screaming that even if she'd saved her mom by letting her teacher die, her mom still wouldn't ever be okay with it. And most importantly, Rose flat out says she wouldn't be happy with that either, her eyes blazing with pure, no-joke certainty. She whips her sword through the air with everything she's got, shouting that she'll be just like the teacher she saw earlier because she finally decided to become the kind of a person, an adventurer who rushes in to help people in need, no matter how terrifying things get. Down on the ground, he stared at her and whispered her name, like it hit him harder than anything because he's completely floored by the way she carries herself. Then one of the other knights spots her and bluntly asks, "Are you really a rookie?" Because she's somehow. Kastamea yells that they can't let her outshine them, slamming her as a total hero, meanwhile is clawing and panicking just to make his body move, whispering to himself that all he needs is to land just one slice of support magic, but Rose keeps her eyes on the enemies right in front of her, staring down her target like nothing else exists. But she's so slammed with chopping those tiny fries that she never notices the giant monster creeping up right behind her. Rose spots the giant ant and color drains from his face. He realizes she's in way over her head. He screams at the top of his lungs, yelling to Rose that an emperor ant is coming up behind them. Rose twists around and sees it, and she just freezes in place as the terror hits, while she screams nonstop, yelling a warning that those jaws pack an insane amount of power. And if she lets it sink in, it'll cut straight through her armor like it's paper. Armor clanked like it didn't even exist. The emperor ant gapes its massive jaws, and it looks like it's one bite away from snapping her in half right there. Right then and there, Rose panics as she watches, praying he could just hurl a spell straight at its neck. And Rose catches his voice, her eyes snapping wide as she locks onto that one weak spot. Then she hears him. She snaps her head at the hit and instantly yelps in panic, throwing her whole weight into a desperate dash, stopping. A desperate swing, she shrieks at full volume, throwing every ounce of strength into this one last move. She tees it up high over her head for a brutal overhead swing. Then the monster is right there on top of her and she snaps forward and throws the punch first. Then the blade slams straight into the creature's face with a brutal hit that cuts off the sentence mid-snap, to split the entire emperor ant clean in half, and as the giant monster collapses behind her, she just stands there shaking as the dust settles. Rose just tries to catch her breath, utterly wrecked, huffing and puffing after unleashing that kind of power, and that leaves Rose. Rose just stood there frozen in total shock, staring back at her like she'd seen a ghost. One of the knights nearby completely loses it, screaming that some rookie actually just took down an emperor. Rose fights to stay calm, but Rose shoots back a warning. The fight still isn't done just yet. She shoots him a shaky look, voice trembling as she asks, "Are you sure we're still okay?" And right then something snaps inside her. She freezes cold as a bizarre sensation slams into her. The night closes in, and everything goes completely insane. Rose starts to glow, and Rose just stares at her like she's about to witness something huge, so she can't stop wondering what's happening next. And Rose screams as the power surges past her control, so that light around her keeps swelling brighter and brighter. Rose's jaw drops because she can barely handle how blinding she's about to become. She can't even finish the thought. Glowing, then a massive pillar of energy rockets upward, swallowing her whole and erasing her from sight. The light is blinding the knights, so they crank their shields down, eyes pinned shut, totally lost on what's happening, and even the ant monsters skid to a stop, totally baffled by it. The whole thing, when the lights die out, Rose stands there with steam billowed up from the device with steam rising off her. The blinding light finally fades and one knight spots it's gone while his buddy blurts, "What the heck was that insane energy?" He stood there completely stunned, admitting he had zero clue what that power even was or where it came from. stares at her own hands, feeling totally lost. She's frantically trying to piece together what just happened. Right then, one of the ant monsters shrieked, an ear-splitting screech that tore through the air. Then the massive queen ant arrives, towering over Rose and shrinking the other soldier ants into little more than specks. Any bugs, Rose just stands there frozen solid, staring up at the giant monster as it towers over her, and the knights nearby start to buckle, grunting with raw terror as the truth hits them. They're staring down a queen face to face. The monster snaps out a nasty clicking sound, flexing those terrifying mandibles like it's daring anyone to come closer, and just like that, the whole nest erupts, screeching, cracking, and shifting as it all starts moving again. One of the knights screams that everything is about to look absolutely brutal, while Iris just freezes in place, fighting panic as pure stress floods her face. Iris looks like she's 1 second away from snapping from the noise. As one knight frets that the queen just lit a fire under the monster's ass, the rest of them still caw. Shaken by that sound, Rose just plops there on the ground, totally wrecked. Rose goes wide-eyed because that noise isn't random at all. It's the exact command an emperor ant spits out to make. Scatter the whole soldier swarm. The narrator says this is basically the absolute worst-case nightmare. Then the knights erupt into screams as that massive swarm of ants finally starts rushing. Like a crushing wave, Rose watches from the shadows as the swarm's front line gets yanked aside, and the whole place feels shattered, while the knights and Iris just freeze there, mouths hanging open, completely clueless about what's really going on. Happening surges past them like a blade of lightning, zinging so fast even the ants can't react, because they don't even get a second to. Rose doesn't even react, she just stares, stunned out of her mind by the sheer speed and power exploding from it. Rose stands her ground with her sword yanked up and ready, staring down while dead monsters pile up around her. She's just not done yet. She just obliterated him. Her final strike lands with a brutal thud, and the shockwave rattles the whole area, leaving. The room falls dead silent as Rose stares, wondering, this is it. Did she finally unlock the power she's always had? Rose stares at the ground and something inside her flips like a switch got flipped in her chest, so hard she can't help but wonder if she's the one who's actually wrong, because she should be completely wiped out by now. But somehow her whole body feels weightless like a feather in the wind, and she's still gripping her sword with a death grip. Realizing it's the exact opposite of exhaustion, she feels like she's bursting with raw power, but when that giant swarm of ants locks eyes with her, panic flickers for a split second. She starts wondering if her senses are just frozen stiff from fear, or maybe this is all real and I'm just not ready to admit it yet. A delusion. Then she snaps into focus and decides that even if it's messy, she's just gonna shrug and go with the flow. She leaned in, snapping back into her fighting stance, dead monster right there. Before she can even blink, the masters are already scattered behind her, and then reality shatters with a massive shockwave that sends ants flying. Fighters burst through the air in every direction while the knights stare down from below, completely lost in. Rose flashes a tiny secret smile on her face. She couldn't stop picturing it. If only she could protect everyone like this forever. Thomas Demet is completely losing it, sweating buckets as he grabs anyone nearby and screams, "What the hell just happened?" It happened, then the knights came crashing in. Ants and Iris stare in shock as they realize every single emperor and soldier ant is wiped out in the blink of an eye. Rose stood in the dusty ruin, staring back at the wreckage she just left behind. She just made. She can't even process it, like her brain just refuses to believe what she's seeing. She kept staring at it, wondering if this was even real, and if she was truly the one who. Then bam, the massive queen ant lunges in and screeches in her face, still standing like nothing happened even with all that. The blast hits and Rose whips her gaze to the monster. Then she finally realizes why everything she's feeling makes perfect sense. Feeling isn't just a lie, it's the truth biting back every time. Or maybe it's one of those wild dreams. She clenches her sword like her life depends on it, and that raw power keeps roaring through her veins. And as she keeps staring at the queen ant, she finally realizes those huge monster moves aren't fast at all, they're sluggish, almost deliberate. She grins, thinks, if I'm this much faster, I've totally got this, and then she drops. He drops into a low, ready for battle stance. Ready to end it? Rose floors, gripping the moment from the ground, thinking about how his god's eye lets him see what's happening, and realizing she can suddenly sense the divine revelations of everyone around her, and that's how he knows she's finally ready. the queen ant lunges wide, but Rose is already charging in for the kill. As Rose steps in, everyone can't help but wonder, how did she pull off the impossible and bring it down? All those ants, especially when her growth always dragged behind by so much that it felt impossible. She was on a whole other level than everyone else, because even her title was only Apprentice Warrior, and that's just the beginning of how crazy this. So unreal for someone with this kind of power. She just launches into the air and he chops the queen ant down with one brutal strike, so hard the guys watching just can't even wrap their heads around it. What they're seeing, Rose Fleur just stands there, eyes locked on him, and you can tell she thinks he finally gets it. Things finally fell into place. Rose stands tall, victorious, already having finished the job. Completely alone, then Rose Fleur spots her safe and finally exhales. Work's finally over. He crashes to the ground with a brutal thud as Rose screams his name, but wait. But it's already over, staying awake is impossible, and his consciousness just drops out completely. Rose Fleur finally jolts his eyes open, looking utterly dazed as he begins to. He jolts upright in bed, blinking hard in confusion, until it hits him. He's really back in his own house. Right then, Rose Vermilion bursts into the room, panic written all over her face, and blurts out, "Are you finally awake?" She darts to his side, firing off, "Do you hurt anywhere?" As Rose Fleur presses a careful touch to the bandage on his head, and the moment she does, she remembers collapsing and passing out. Suddenly, a wild idea slams into his head, and his eyes snap wide open. He jerks upright in bed, panic instantly exploding in his chest, and blurts out, demanding to know exactly how long he's been out for. Then he instantly spirals over the date, firing off frantic questions like, "Did we miss today's exam?" Rose tells him to slow down, reminding him it's still the very same night they went to the cave, so he hasn't even been gone that long. She says it's only been about 3 or 4 hours since he collapsed. When Rose Fleur heard it, her whole body went limp with relief because, thank goodness, they didn't miss their moment. Rose Fleur starts spiraling with questions about how he even made it home, then turns to Rose and demands to know if she was the one who carried him all that way. Rose looks absolutely terrified, beads of sweat pour down her face, and when she tries to speak, her voice shakes like she's scared to say what really happened. And back in the cave, Rose Fleur lay slammed to the ground while Costoma and Rose panicked, screaming his name at the top of their. Glycine bursts in with a torch blazing, and snaps at Rose that she really shouldn't be shaking. Seeing someone like Rise lying there unconscious gets caught off guard fast, especially. Just minutes earlier, they'd all been chatting like it was any normal day, then everything snapped out of control. Glycine gives him a full checkup, then tells Rose the bleeding stopped and his breathing is perfectly fine, so it makes. Glycine drops that he's probably just passed out from the sheer relief of seeing Rose safe, and Rose practically erupts into blushing madness. Glycine says, yeah, he looks fine for now, but she's quick to slam the brakes. Someone still needs to take him to a doctor and make sure he's truly okay, so Costoma surges forward, flings an offer over his shoulder and promises to carry him back to town right as he bends down. Fast, she refuses to let anyone else lay a hand on him and lunges in to take full control. Rose's voice cracks with pure emotion, and she screams that she's the one who's going to carry him. That poor girl is totally losing it, tears streaming, voice cracking because she feels like she caused it, and she can't shake the guilt of it. Costoma tries to speak up, but Rose Fleur only freezes in the most awkward way. Then he blurts out that even if she's trying to help, carrying him might be a total workout. Glycine steps in fast, trying to steady everyone, and blurts out that Rose Fleur is clearly a huge deal to her. Then Glycine just drops a bombshell. She calls him her boyfriend, and Rose freezes, mouth agape, staring in disbelief as she blurts the words back over and over. Glycine keeps pushing, basically saying that having a cute girlfriend like Rose hoist him on her back is the kind of thing that would totally overload any guy. Rose's face was sculpted from. She's basically burning with rage right now, but she just can't stop fixating on the fact that they called her a cute girlfriend. Rose Fleur finally finds his voice, and goes all in to set the record straight. He tells the group, loud and clear, that him and Rose aren't dating like that at all. He looks straight up buried in stress right now, and orders them to stop turning something simple into a total mess. Costoma just throws it off with a laugh, then says, since Rose Fleur saved my life, I'm doing my part. And after all that, Rose Fleur finally breaks and gives in. Rose stays totally frozen in place, cheeks burning bright red, and after Glycine's words, she can't manage a single word. Once the chaos finally calms down a little, Rose tells Rose Fleur that the adventurer who carried him back is the exact person they're looking at. Rose Fleur immediately clocks who he is and blurts out that he knows exactly which guy she's talking about. He can't shake the humiliating memory of Rose hauling at him while he was passed out, and it crushes him, like he's not really cut out to look like a leader. Rose explains they just so happened to bump into Tara right outside the guild, and she makes it crystal clear that Tara was the one who truly stepped up and saved the day for them. Apparently, he was insanely professional about the whole thing. Then he called. He sent for a doctor and laid out crystal clear instructions for everyone, step by step, so nobody would mess it up. After hearing all of that, Rose Fleur can't shake it. Tara is every bit as incredible as she'd expected. Rose then leans in and tells him the doctor said the bleeding looks scarier than it really is. He's mostly dealing with a concussion. Rose floored the box score, but man, feeling pretty lame because he was the one who was supposed to be the star, jumping in to help everyone else out. Rose Fleur stares down, crushed by guilt, and blurts out that he's sorry. He hates that he caused all this trouble and made everyone carry the weight. But Rose isn't buying it for a second. He jumps to his feet and fires back, saying it's absolutely not true. It became crystal clear that every single adventurer was genuinely, deeply grateful for what he'd done. Rose kept barreling forward, telling him she'd watched the whole time, and that she honestly thought he was totally an absolutely mind-blowing lead-in, until she finally blurts out that he's exactly the kind of person she dreams of becoming one day. Rose Fleur meets her gaze with a gentle smile, and when he thanks her, he blurts out the truth. She's the real one who saved him, which blasts Rose straight into a full-on panic. She stammers, tries to play it cool, but then it hits her hard and she blurts out, "Something's seriously wrong with my body," as she starts explaining what's happening. Back then, this wild power surged through her, wiped every ounce of her tiredness away, and left her feeling lighter than air. She swears the ants started crawling in slow motion. Then the second she felt like she could finally crush them, it actually. Rose finally admits that after all that non-stop chaos and brutal fighting they've just survived, it's still all sinking in. She isn't even a little tired. Rose Fleur just stands there, silently staring like she's daring the world to blink first. And he asks her, "So you still haven't checked your revelation?" Rose erupts with a massive shout, completely stunned. And she panics, screaming that checking it completely slipped her mind. Rose Fleur can only stand there helpless, while she goes completely off but he just shrugs it off and admits he's a total mess for not saying something sooner, while Rose, in the back, seethes at herself, looking way too fed up. He promises to spell out every detail of what she's seeing, and just like that, the whole scene snaps over to On the morning of the giant promotion exam, a huge crowd packed itself outside the towering stone walls, and everyone's packed into the town's West District training grounds, crowding the place wall to wall, so many people that it's buzzing everywhere. And now adventurers of every kind are packed in, desperate to see what went down, because this is a huge deal. So tons of spectators pack the area, staring in anticipation. Then one guy in the crowd leans in and asks how things look on their side, which sets. They slammed onto Rose's floor and told her they'd finally made it to the exam venue. Yet Rose just stood there, frozen, drowning in the sheer chaos of it all. Rose Fleur leans in and asks Rose if the exam is making her feel that nervous jitter in her chest. And she insists it's only natural, because she's heard a bunch of people have been tanking the mid-tier lately. She frets that messing up could drag trouble onto him, but he brushes it off, right as a voice suddenly calls out to them. Dahlia and her crew roll in, and the moment they spot Rose Fleur, she finally looks healthy again, and that's when things get interesting because. So he winces with embarrassment as he apologizes for needing to be carried the other day. Kostoma slams into him on the spot and tells him, "No, turns out I'm the one who was saved back then." He tells Rose he already poured out his feelings, but he's determined to drive the point home. Rose Fleur knows one thing for sure. Without them, they'd be dead. Without him there, you'd better believe she'd be handing out a massive thank you while the rest of the crew piles on the praise. Rose Fleur totally panics, then scrambles to play it cool like it's no big deal at all. After that quick chat, Kostoma snaps, "We're done," and strides toward the exit like the night's ending for good. The veteran adventurer locks eyes with Rose and tells her he's really praying she can shatter her mother's curse. while Rose, both shocked and stunned, can't believe the group really walked all the way over. Just to say something like that, Kostoma shrugs it off like it's nothing. Men. And yeah, because in a job like theirs, you don't get to send later gratitude, you say thanks while you're still here to say it. Just as the whole crew gears up to leave, Rose swings in and speaks up. She blurts out loud and demands to know if they're actually staying, so they can witness her crush that exam. Kostoma just flicks her hand and walks off, not even glancing back, because she's so certain he doesn't need to watch it to know how. The rest of the party piles in with a peace sign, cheering, "You've got this in the bag, now breathe, relax, and just get." Rose makes it through, watches them march off, and realizes, yeah, those party members weren't half bad after all. She just smiles and the feeling hits her. He felt pure pride knowing he'd finally stepped up and helped them out. She practically vibrates with excitement and blurts out to him like, "You have no idea, I talked your ear off about everything under the sun." As he headed back, Chaos followed right behind. Rose thinks it's hilarious they were so cocky they didn't even bother watching the exam. Then she gives a slightly awkward little laugh. Before they can go any further, a voice snaps from behind them and a girl steps in, staring like, so Rose actually had the guts to show up. Rose totally freezes, blurts Frigga's name in panic, and realizes her old party leader is standing there, smirking, while the rest of the crew looks smug too. Frigga wastes zero time, leaning in and blurting out to Rose that she was certain she could just bolt. Then she bursts out laughing and says Rose was probably too scared of losing the match, so she leans in, all sharp smirk and bad intentions, and Frigga cuts in fast, telling her she really doesn't. No way. Rose just stands there, eyes heavy with shadow, soaking up the heat while she stays icy calm. Then she locks eyes with Frigga and refuses to budge, standing her ground and declaring she's done running. Frigga's jaw drops as Rose locks eyes with her, daring her, because Rose is about to prove to everyone exactly what she's got. She smirks and says the Frigga she knew was right. "Rose, you're made of something special." Then Frigga snaps, laughs in her face, and tells Rose that everything coming out of her mouth is pure nonsense. Just before the tension explodes any further, Rose cuts in and tells the girls to shift their focus to the crowd because everyone's drifting in and it looks like the proctor just finally showed up. So yeah, things are about to kick off. Rose stiffens, fists tightening, and braces herself. She knows this is the big moment, the instant she finally earns her place in front of everyone watching. The big moment finally explodes into reality as the announcement crashes through the air. Grade 4's promotion exam is officially starting right now. A massive crowd of adventurers floods the open training grounds, buzzing with anticipation as they brace for the next wild, no-rules test to hit them. A girl with a giant ribbon strides to the front to take charge. She introduces herself as Allium and makes it crystal clear she's running today's mission. She cuts straight to it and tells him the test is nothing less than a mock subjugation, thanks to her special powers. So the whole crowd turns to each other, totally bewildered like, wait, what on earth is a mock subjugation supposed to mean? Rose studies her like a hawk, thinking, this exam is insanely weird, until he spots the telltale signs. She's about to unleash a summon. Right then, a gigantic flaming deer bursts out of nowhere and the crowd erupts as someone screams, "It's a flare Bambi." The adventurers are getting blasted by the fire deer's heat, but Allium won't stop. She keeps yapping like she's got answers, and she says she knows a few of some of them got slammed by that previous task, and it kicked up all kinds of trouble. She stands shoulder to shoulder with the beast and drops the truth. Her magic lets her summon and command every kind of magical creature like it's nothing. Then she finally unloads the real bombshell. She tells everyone that this round of the exam won't be theory at all, because they're about to square up and fight the beast she just dragged out. The crowd leans in tight as Allium lays down the rules: 10 minutes, 1 fighter, and if they want a pass, they'd better take down the beast alone inside that fence. She doesn't beat around the bush. She makes it crystal clear that this creature is just as brutal as any monster a rank 4 adventurer would have to fight. Rose takes it all in, nodding like, oh no, because he finally understands exactly what they're facing. He thinks this is honestly a pretty fair way to run an exam, at least if she keeps the power levels perfectly balanced by controlling her summons. While the other candidates soak up the warnings, they're free to fight however they want. But the moment anyone bolts or tries to cheat, it's an instant disqualification. Allium's tone snaps deadly serious for a moment, reminding everyone she has full control over how the beasts move. and she makes it crystal clear. If anyone gets hurt during that fight, the guild won't take the blame for a single accident. Because this test isn't the only one they'll ever get, she tells them straight up, if it feels like too much, walking away won't make them losers, it's not shameful at all. Then she cuts the chatter short, and finally shows them exactly what they're about to battle today. With a snap of her hand, she screams out her summon, and a massive force answers her call. A massive beast called the Tao Ju suddenly rears up right behind her. Allium jabbed a finger at A creature lurks behind her, announcing to the crowd that this is their opponent, and the Taoju lets out a thunderous snort. North as the candidates start freaking out over just how massive it really is. She snaps her orders and makes everyone line up for the 4 enclosures in strict order, sorted by the numbers from their applications. As the crowd starts to flow, Rose swivels to his student and demands, "What was your number again?" She smiles and tells him, "I'm number 45. Staring at that endless line of adventurers, Rose can't help but worry. Are they really going to be stuck waiting until the very last minute of the day? And Rose rips into him, saying it's on them, because they waited until the absolute last second to turn it in. Then it all comes down to their applications. Up ahead, the other candidates start losing their nerve. One girl even wonders if they can hurt something that huge, while another guy straight up admits the whole thing is getting terrifying. Out in the crowd, someone else yells at them to quit freezing up and stop shaking before the fight even kicks off. That spiky-haired kid leans in, hunting for the gimmick, and straight up asks if transparent bull means he's about to turn invisible the moment the match kicks off. He presses them, demanding to know if the true test is tracking its presence or figuring out exactly where it's hiding. He flashes a grin at the proctor and tells Allium she's being weirdly kind, basically handing them a hint right before the exam kicks off. Rose nods hard and swears the bull's name theory is spot on, and it might. Allium shot her hand up to kick things off, shouted for the transparent bulls to be summoned, and bam, 4 massive beasts thundered into the enclosures. Watching Rose work, I'm genuinely blown away. She juggles 4 beasts at once, keeps their power levels perfectly balanced, and pulling that off is a massive feat that sets everything in motion, leading. This snaps it into place. Allium wasn't always just a guild worker, not even close. She must have been a top-tier adventurer before she ever took this job. Allium refuses to let the tension slip. He roars that the exam is finally starting. In one of the pens, a candidate gets totally blindsided when the bull comes barreling in, and before he can even react, it feels like the beast vanished into thin air. The guy tries to hold it together and keep his cool, no matter what's about to happen. He tried to shrug it off, telling himself it was fine as long as it didn't try to disappear, so he could get. He snaps into a ready stance, eyes locked on it, ready to snatch it out of the air. But it's hopeless. He starts spinning in a blur, and he spun in circles, lost the monster for good, and panicked as he demanded where it had gone. Right then, the bull charges back into frame, straight behind his back, and when he realizes he's totally exposed, his face drains of color. And the only thing left in him is a terrified scream as that massive creature charges straight at his face. The first candidate snaps, loses control, and launches across the field like his life depends on it, and gets disqualified right there on the spot. He drops to his knees, crushed with shame, calling himself a coward while Rose Vermilion feels for the guy. She forces a smile and says, "At least he'll bring good energy. He's the kind of mood maker any part of this game needs." Everyone at the party can't stop talking because he's so insanely fast. Next, a knight with a horned helmet strides into the ring, eyes sharp, listening like he can hear the unseen steps, and he's convinced he finally cracked the secret to winning. But even without seeing the bowls, he can still whip up a danger zone, swinging his blade wide in brutal circles, and he stays right on their heels, smirking with total confidence, because if those monsters want to attack, they'll have to close the distance eventually. From the sidelines, Rose admits that might be one way to play it, but he instantly sees the real catch, and it's a huge problem. The knight's eyes blow wide the second he finally lands a hit. Then he freezes, realizing his sword can't even leave a scratch on the beast, and Rose cuts in, saying that kind of plan only works if you're strong enough to slice right through skin, because anything less is just way too built tougher than any regular monster. That bull doesn't even flinch, it just smashes into him and hurls him out of the arena into instant disqualification. Another girl snaps under pressure, collapses on the spot, starts crying and blurts out sorry, because she just can't do it anymore, so So the proctors snag her and disqualify her on the spot. Then the chaos snowballs and one after another more and more people get kicked out. Back in the shadows, some random dude yells that the whole test is straight up impossible, and Rose Vermilion can't help but wonder if fourth rank life is always this wild, until Asia smirks and snaps that she can't stand watching the losers anymore. Because this is it, her time to step up and she's got it figured out. If she can't spot or feel where the bulls are, she has to flip the whole game, so she starts dumping stuff onto the dirt. Saying they just need to bring the unseen into the light, she drops to her knees and blasts her power, and all those tiny mounds of earth suddenly spring up. Which leaves Rose scratching her head over the dirt's purpose, until Rose Vermilion clocks it and realizes Frigga isn't just messing around, she's an alchemist. Frigga tells you her style is pure chaos. She reshapes whatever material she's given, slams in earth bumps across the floor, and fills the whole place like that. And Rose suddenly realizes she's way smarter than she thought. He points out those bumps are built to collapse the moment you step on them, the perfect trap for anything you can't even see. So the second one of the bulls stumbles, Frigga flicks her bow back, smirks like she's waiting for this moment, and declares she's finally got the opening. Phrygia screams her spell's name, the ground tears open, and a gigantic wooden spike rockets upward, straight to impale the bull. Then she crumples to her knees, utterly drained, and the proctors explode in cheers. She just officially cleared every single part of the exam, which actually impresses Rose. He grins, admits the girls weren't just blowing smoke, and confirms they finally made it through. The rest of the party explodes into jumping around like they just hit the jackpot. They were hopping around, cheering like they'd just conquered the world, when the crowd watching from the sidelines, it starts to slip like it's impossible they're already here, insisting it barely took a minute, just like the girl who hit the mark before them. And then one guy in the crowd suddenly clocks them, blurts out that he knows exactly who they are, and exposes the twist that all these kids are secretly partying together in one big crew. Rose fires off, asking if it's true he's only as strong as Rose Vermilion was a month ago. Then her face instantly turns bright red, and they immediately get flustered. Right then, Frigga strides up, looking furious and snaps, asking why the two of you are flirting in public like it's nothing at all. Frigio gets a wave from the other girls in the group. While Rose stays cool, she rallies the whole squad and tells them they absolutely nailed it. After crushing the test, Frigga just shoots a smirk and looks away like, yeah, I'm totally composed just as usual, even with that huge win. Frigga leans in and snaps, were you even paying attention, Rose? She reminds him that even level 10 adventurers can't take a monster like that, yet Rose just stands there. They're frozen in pure shock as the monster barrels right past them. Frigga leans in, stares, and blurts out, can little Rose, level 3 and just a first year, really stand a chance and beat a monster on that level? Rose won't back down for a second. She tells the group she won't know for real until she takes the leap and tries it. But the red-haired girl from that old party just snapped, like she'd been waiting for her moment all. He just shrugs off the whole thing and warns her that the moment she's finally gotten seriously hurt, crying won't change a thing. The short-haired girl jumps in, furious that everyone's stuck waiting, and snaps that Rose should just quit while she's ahead. Especially. Rose snapped that if she walked out right now, the examiner might finish the work early and finally get to rest. Allium just smirks at the thought, claiming that if Rose is really dead set on it to go through with it, she's totally fine letting it happen. Frigga jumps in and tells everyone, I'm about to enjoy watching Rose get absolutely demolished out there, and the rest of the girls start cracking up like it's the funniest thing I've ever seen, straight up hilarious. Right when the announcement blares that number 45 has to step up, they're racing for the last slot on the exam. Rose tells Rose this is finally her moment, then she storms off toward the arena, while he stays put, cheering her on and wishing her luck from the sidelines. Frigga dares Rose to embarrass herself in front of everyone, and the short-haired girl sneers, hurling crybaby like it's the punchline. Rose stands there, sweating, watching these girls blaze with talent and somehow still stumble so badly she can't wrap her head around how they even pull off acting like that. Frigga stares at Rose and snaps, you absolute idiot. And then Rose. He's fighting to stay calm because this time, it's finally his turn to step up and deal with their non-stop talk. So he really dragged himself all this way just to watch her get crushed, and then call him a pervert like that was the point. Rose shrugs off the insult and thinks, just leave me alone already. Shut out the world so he could cheer for Rose in total peace. But then the red-haired girl barrels in too, grinning and asking if Rose's face is really so irresistible to him. She doesn't let it go, she pushes again, asking if he's really only hunting her body, and the girl beside her bursts into laughter at the thought. Rose turns his back on them and says nothing. He just lets every insult crash around him while his eyes lock on the arena. But Frigga won't let up, she keeps pressing, grilling them like, so the two of you are really in some kind of a secret relationship, totally hidden from everyone and way too intense to ignore. The girls keep cracking jokes, laughing that he might be better at this than being an adventurer, but Rose just shuts down, silent as stone.